Hello, everybody. How are we all this evening? I am joined tonight by Simmy Bear and by Tech Deck,
Heyo.
who both played for WA this year. Simmy representing WA Orcas and Tech Deck representing the Quackening.
We're the ones leaving the ducks everywhere.
So it's been a little bit since we finished up nationals. It's been just over a month now, and things have been a little bit crazy since getting back home. But we've got some time together now to finally kick off the nationals review.
Hey.
So I've got some ladders up on my other monitor, with the finals placings and with the predicted placings from Sync's list. So we're going to run through them, starting from the bottom up. If we have enough time, we're going to run all the way up to 11th tonight, and the following stream will be top 10. However, if we do run too long, we'll probably just cut it halfway and then do 1st to 12th for the second stream. So, to kick it off, in 24th place and earning themselves the wooden spoon this year, the ACT Ghost Bears. So we have Alter Ego, formerly known as Zenith, Sauron, Annie, Striker, Nickel, and Finn. So I only played Ghost Bears once this competition. But from what I remember, the Canberra rookies were pretty impressive, being Annie and Finn. And they were joined by the Albury rookie Striker as well.
Yes.
So Alter Ego and Sauron have been around for quite a while now.
Whole time I've been around.
Yep.
And longer.
And Nickel, I believe, is the new site operator in Canberra as well.
Yep, so there's two new site operators in Canberra, Nickel being one of them.
Yep.
But important to know that Nickel didn't join until a few days into the competition, so
Yes.
work commitments and all at
I did see that, yeah.
ACT meant that he couldn't join until later in the competition.
Yep. So if we pull over Doug's little list here, and I don't want the whole thing, I just want to have a look at this top ladder here. So they finished round robin in 23rd, and they sat through both Cascades, staying in 23rd, and then lost the wooden spoon game to Crazy by only 1,700 points. So it was pretty close.
Yeah.
That's one of
That
the
was a
things where
close
your
game.
day just doesn't go well, right?
Yeah, and I mean it can happen to anyone too. So yeah, I didn't see a lot of these guys play. But I do know that also at the pre-nats, they had most of their team, I believe. And
Finn came down definitely.
yep.
Don't remember if Annie was there, so apologies, Annie, if you were, but Finn 100% was down there, and Finn is probably one of their rookies they'll be looking at to bring up, because you can't imagine ACT stays at two teams for very long. The third team will come into it eventually, like tradition.
Yep.
So Finn will be one of those ones that I believe will move up along with Annie onto the next team after they've now done their grounding with their old school players for their first nats, because it can be daunting.
Yeah, definitely.
As a new player, I agree. Yes, it's a little bit daunting.
So you would have played them a few times, I believe. Is that right, Tech Deck?
Yeah, we versed them a few times. Decent team. They sort of very much like all the newer teams with a lot of newer players. They sorted themselves out as how they worked as a team, how they worked together, and what their strategy worked for the arena. And they definitely sorted themselves out and were able to hold, like you said, hold that position of 23rd for quite a bit. It was just that last day of Cascades that just got to them. And it was just that last game where we also jumped up a bit, but yeah, it was just one of those annoying things where you lose by only a certain amount of points because of one base take or something like that, and you're not expecting it.
So you guys played Ghost Bears 5 times.
Yeah.
Out of those 5 times, they won twice against you guys.
Yeah. Like I was saying, it's a lot of us new teams, especially with us. We had, I think, Brad and Elmo who've been doing it for a while now, and Squids who's been doing it for a little bit as well. And it was them being the older guys that were teaching Plank, Stinky, and I basically how this whole system works and what strategies work. And it was us just diligently just sitting down and listening. And it's the exact same thing with every team, is you have those new players that are just sort of coming along for the ride, learning what they can. And yeah, they sort of end a lot of, like, I think for Simi, for your team, you had Wazzy, who was a new person this year as well. You guys trained him up in the way that you needed him to, and it was the same with our team. And I think for Ghost Bears as well, is they trained each of the new people up to exactly what they needed them to be, what positions they wanted them to be in. And yeah,
I think a lot of this came down to for Ghost Bears is they had a lot of experience there in Zenith and Sauron, and then Nickel coming back in, but Nickel hasn't played since 2015, and the game has evolved a lot since 2015. Zenith, Alter Ego and Sauron have played for a very long time, but they all missed 2020. Sauron came to 2020, but the game has moved on, and then we had the 2-year gap. So that experience didn't help them as much as it potentially could have going forward, because there was such a big gap in playing. So that let this team fell into that position just because we've all had such a big gap from playing. So putting something together was probably a little more difficult because the game did change in 2020 even. Like the style and some of the tactics that you were seeing come through. So it didn't help them. And they were at a 50-50 ratio with Crazy on win-losses as well.
They played each other 6 times and won 3 of them.
Yeah. So, unfortunately for them, they were exactly in the realm where they believed they should have been. And they finished, unfortunately, on a 50-50 game. Like, it could have gone any way. That game could have gone either way, with Quackening having just a little bit better record against the other 2 teams in the arena at the time.
Yep. Another thing to note as well is with Striker playing for them from a different state, there would have been a bit of time where they had to work out how Striker fit into the team as well, and just like figuring out gelling issues and stuff. So that would have had an impact as well, I think.
Yeah, when you can't train with your team and it's an unknown quantity before you get there, that's always hard. Just ask Tassie. Funnily enough, Doug's list, where he does it all by math, actually had Ghost Bears finishing 19th.
Yeah, okay.
With the math. So that was interesting. So none of the 3 teams that were in the bottom 3 on the Doug's math list were in the bottom 3 for the death match.
Yep.
Wooden Spoon.
Something interesting to note as well, just looking at the stats as the comp progressed as well. So Ghost Bears finished round robin only 2 comp points ahead of Crazy. They were tied on comp points and separated by 2,100 average score at the end of Cascade 1. And then after Cascade 2, Ghost Bears actually pulled an 8-point comp lead over Crazy going into finals day.
They just had a bad finals day.
That's what it looks like, yeah. So they were progressively improving over the comp, and then, just had a bad day on finals day, unfortunately.
It can be a bit of that pressure as well when you're on the finals day and you're like, right, we've got to push out as best as we can. You're sort of in that mindset of what can I do for the team? And on that last day, I feel like it becomes a lot of what can I do for the team, not what can our team do.
Yeah,
that's a trap. Yeah. And that is a trap.
Yep.
That really is a trap.
Yeah, there's definitely a different kind of pressure on finals day compared to the rest of the competition. And you find a lot of teams, especially less experienced teams, will take bigger risks more often, which leads to the potential of dropping points and dropping games that you probably wouldn't if it wasn't that same kind of pressure.
Yeah, it's
I've done the deathmatch 4
Yeah.
times. And you pull out every hat. You pull out every trick you got in the hat that day, because the last thing you want is to take that wooden spoon home. So sheer desperation comes into it as well. At that point, you got nothing to lose. So,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
really scary if you're not the team predicted to lose that last game. That is a really hard position to be in if you don't read the game properly, which is what happened here with Ghost Bears. They just didn't read the game at the end there. So they lost. A little bit more experience there off the other two teams kept them somewhat in control as they went through. But it is crazy. I cannot explain to you what a wooden spoon game is like, but it is very crazy. And the next game after that is far more settled. But that wooden spoon game where you got nothing to lose but your pride, it can get to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the team competing against them for the wooden spoon spot, Crazy from Darwin.
Yes. Crazy, who led who held up the bottom of the ladder for the entire competition, and they thought they were going to come wooden spooner.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So on Crazy, we had Infused Junior, Ash, Prince Koala, Hulk, and Hatto. So 3 rookies, along with Ash, who's played for a year or 2 longer than I have, I believe. And Hulk, who played 2016 in Launton.
He's played another. Sure, Hulk's played another year, or he's played pre-Nazs at least. Hulk's been around a while. I don't like snipers, and I still don't like snipers.
That goblins downstairs only.
Yeah, so confirmation in chat that Ash started in 2015. So started in Bendigo and has just finished up in Bendigo.
Alright.
Is the title supposed to be saying Grand Finals? No, it's not VG Master. Sorry, my bad.
It's not, and my OBS didn't actually update it for some reason, and I can't edit
we're
it
just
from
a
here.
month late on the grand final, we're going to play it now. We're redoing it.
Thank you for that, VG Master.
Wham, if you're around, please fix.
Or someone who can do it.
Yeah. Lewis, anyone? If you're around, please fix.
Please.
So yeah, Crazy. Obviously fighting with Ghost Bears for that 24th and 23rd spot throughout the competition. With Ghost Bears progressively pulling further away in comp points. Crazy obviously had a bit of a better time on finals day, not getting that 3rd place in the wooden spoon game. Unfortunately, they couldn't continue a climb from there, getting 3rd for the double elim game for 23rd.
No. And look, inexperience would have played a big part here. Prince Koala was their GC. Not sure if Prince Koala was calling the shots, whether it was in-game GC or not. Would have hurt.
Yes.
New team, first net year to nationals. He was okay. So there we go from Infused Junior. That is hard for anyone. So experience there may have let him down in being able to capitalize past that wooden spoon. It got him through the wooden spoon, but big shoes to GC your first nationals.
Yep. Tech Deck, you guys played Crazy 8 times.
Jeez.
We just wanted the best of everything, alright? We wanted to play every team at least 4 times. We had fun. Crazy, yeah, they were... I would say as being more in defense than attack. Having them come and attack us was a bit of a mix. There were some games where they seemed to be really on top of it. They were really communicating well. And there are other games where it seemed like when we were supposed to have 3 attackers there that were attacking us, there was 1 attacker that was just confused about where they were. Like, it was a bit of a mix of sort of new players coming in. And it almost felt like the team was a little bit disorganized. And because of their inexperience, they all were trying to be like the person that sort of knew what they were doing. Without it being like Ash or Hulk, it was the other like 4 players were just sort of like, yeah, cool, like has gone there. But like you said, Infuse Junior trying to fill those big shoes. It's definitely more pressure on him than I think he needed.
Interesting that the only player to end at the end of nationals with a positive score ratio was actually Ash with 115%. Everybody else was below 100. Some of them sitting in the 90, most of them sitting in the 90s realm. But yeah, Ash was the only one there to finish with a positive tag ratio out of all the games that she played, which was 23 games all up.
Yep.
They all played played 26 games, my bad.
Yes, they
that
only
was the
had
average
5
over
players, so no sub.
Yep. No sub. So over 26 games, Ash comes out with a positive tag ratio, and she's got some big tag ratios in there. 146, 133. So last line for Ash must have worked out quite well. It was probably the coordinating of attack there that let them down.
I think, yeah, having 5 players is such a good thing and a bad thing. It doesn't really give you any time to rest in between games if you've got like back-to-backs or anything like that. But it does mean that you're all cooperating as a team. There's no sort of like, oh, someone else can fill my spot, which I think a couple teams felt with the subs. Even for like my team, we felt that it was sort of like, oh, like we can swap out these people because if we swap out a defense with a defense player, it doesn't really matter. But because of that, you don't have that full team coordination for the entire comp. And you can sort of end up creating different combinations of people that might work or might not work. I knew that for our team especially, we wanted to keep myself, Stinky, and Plankin to keep us in so we could learn more, which I think was for a lot of teams. You have those newer players that you're like, you want these people to be in so they can work with the team, work well. But if your whole team isn't the only people, you sort of end up taking out people that might need that extra experience to stay in.
I think with these guys as well, Bendigo was a different arena for everybody. It was not the traditional sit someone inside the base, hold it for 12 minutes. It was very brawly and base, which should have suited the Ghost Bears because they play no base evac, or at least they used to play no base evac at home and things like that. So very similar to WA style. So the brawly should have, in many senses, been much better for Ghost Bears than it was for Dingoes because Dingoes. Sorry, my bad. Crazy because at home they play. Last year was very low base games, very hard. Sit someone inside the base. Here, game awareness was key, and I felt Crazy didn't have as much game awareness, and some of that is because they were new. Some of that is just because of the style of game they play at home. They're the game awareness outside. And you had some heavy defenders there, Hulk being a heavier defender, Ash being a heavier defender. That makes it hard when you've got no firepower in the front end.
Yeah.
Or you're relying on one player to be that firepower.
I did ref a few games from their base over the competition as well, and they seemed relatively coordinated in defense, like organizing like player swaps, keeping their defensive structure together. But it was inconsistent, and I think that comes down to the inexperience. Like the newer guys would have more of a tendency to panic and leave their position a little bit more easily. Communication fell apart more often. And that's all stuff that comes with, just more time playing and training.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with that one. It's all about, actually.
Now we get on to the fun.
training.
I was going to say now we move on to the fun team.
Yes, the interstate mix, spare parts.
ZLTAC, the first ever ZLTAC team. And what a mixed bag she was.
Yes, so let's go up and have a look at spare parts here. So they finished round robin in 22nd. They jumped up to 20th in Cascade 1 and stayed there through Cascade 2 and then dropped back to 22nd on finals day. So spare parts had...
Well, they were predicted to finish in 15th, so...
Yes. So spare parts had Four Eyes and Lycan from New Zealand, Ghibli and Queenie from Queensland, and Master Guardian and Nessica from, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Victoria? Question mark?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, Victoria.
Yep.
Right.
Now, interesting enough, so I didn't actually talk. Crazy finished exactly where Doug's list said they should, in 23rd. Spare parts were on Doug's mathematic list, should have finished 11th. Where did Sync's list put them?
Put
Sorry.
them in 15th.
Let's go back to Sync's list just for a sec because we haven't been doing that. Ghost Bears were placed in 20th on Sync's list.
19th on Doug's list, seating list.
Yep. Crazy were predicted to get the spoon in Sync's list.
Yeah.
You literally have nothing to lose if you're crazy, right? And you're in the death match.
Yep.
Everyone's predicting. So,
Yep. It also followed the pattern as well. So since I started, Darwin has got the wooden spoon every second year, and this was the year that following that pattern they would have gotten the spoon. So they broke the pattern. They broke the curse.
They did just well enough on the last day to get him out of it.
Yep. So yeah, Sync's list had spare parts predicted at 15th.
Yep. Doug had them at 11th with he's scoring at 0.450. And to give you some context, the team that was slated last, which we'll talk about later, was 0.016 on Doug's scoring. And the team that was supposed to win, and did win, but we'll talk about that later, 0.910 is the scores that Doug had given them. And the scores are based on your solo performance, your team performances. So there's a bit of math there. But they would definitely, because Four Eyes has, trophies, Lycan has traditionally done well, Gypsy's also quite traditionally done well, this team was overscored and probably overrated.
Yep. So I think what's happened here is just a case of, good experienced players that haven't trained together on a team and just didn't mesh particularly well. Took a bit of time figuring things out in the arena. I'm not sure if any of them had any pre-nats experience this year.
Gypsy did.
Gypsy did,
yep. She came down for pre-nats 3.
That's right, yep.
Flash, Mushu, and Method and Gravy. So she definitely did. Bendigo guards and Ness have seen the inside of Bendigo a million times over.
Yep.
Yes. Four Eyes and Lycan haven't played a lot of laser tag since Darwin. So that also would have counted into it because New Zealand was in and out of lockdowns during COVID.
Yeah. Another thing worth noting for spare parts as well is Ghibli had to leave early through the competition as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't here for the whole competition, which put them down to 5. And I think the way the arena played this year suited Ghibli's playstyle pretty well too, being the exterior brawly sort of defender. So I think losing that would have hurt them a little bit as well.
Yeah, I know at one stage that Ghibli was, when she was still there, she was going out and asking. She was obviously GCing, going out and asking for some advice. And when they went to execute that, it might not have actually gone towards the advice. So it's whether, with that many players on the team with that much experience, was there some disconnect in what was best for the team as well going forward? Because they all come from different, this is the whole thing, they come from different regions and different kind of game styles. Because we all have our own different, you can tell where a player comes from a lot of the time. So did those theories of the game actually clash against each other and actually be more of a detriment than they were an advantage in this case? Because there was no one clear leader on this team. Just a lot of frustrated people with different ideas. That's what it felt like when I reffed their games. So I reffed a couple of their games and it felt like they were all just, it was somewhat in the right direction, but then they all had their own different theories. So they're grating.
Yeah, so clashing playstyles and clashing attitudes and stuff would have contributed, yeah.
Correct. So instead of sticking with one leader and following it through whether you agreed or not, they didn't do that. So that might have actually hurt their chances of moving up a little bit further.
Yep. So Tech Deck, you guys played spare parts 6 times. And they beat you in 4 of the 6.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, they were actually pretty hard team to beat. A few times we struggled with them a few times. They certainly, I think it comes into play exactly what you were saying to me. It's sort of, they're all, because they're from different states, they didn't really get time beforehand to really play together too much. Especially, I think pre-nats is really important as a team, is doing something like that, because then as a team you actually get to go do it, and you figure out then and there before the actual competition starts how you guys work together. I think they came into it, and because they've all got that sort of experience, even though for New Zealand they were in and out of lockdown, you sort of still have that main experience. I know when I took a break from LASAC for a bit, I came back and I still sort of knew a lot of what I was doing. There is a certain semblance of, you know what you're doing, you're coming in there, you're not coming in there with a fresh face. But yeah, it did sort of, unfortunately, go against them a little bit, is having exactly what you said to me, having those different ideas of how laser tag works for them and how they work, and because they haven't officially beforehand come together and actually played together, it's sort of backfired on them a little bit. But yeah, it was difficult versus them a few times. They definitely had the advantage on us. I think they figured out pretty early on who was best for their attack. Because in defense we struggled a few times against them. There were a few times where we were able to put up a little bit of a fight, but they were definitely walking through us a little bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with spare parts, I think, would have been consistency. Like if, when they were firing on all cylinders, they were playing really well. But yeah, I think losing Gypsy partway through the competition as a strong exterior brawler in defense, and just having the inconsistency of just having clashing play styles and clashing ideas, I think was ultimately why they ended up where they did.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I agree with that one. Yeah, they definitely had those clashing play styles. It was just a bit different for them, and they definitely saw that they struggled a little bit, especially near the end there. But in the beforehand, like if they hadn't have lost Gypsy, I would have probably seen them go a little bit higher than where they ended up.
Yep.
But it happens.
They dropped 2 places on finals day, basically.
Yeah. And that's as simple as having a bad day. Like if you look at the little breakdowns here with the arrows, you can just see they played 2 games on finals day. They got a third and a second, and that dropped them the 2 spots. So
Yeah.
if they went in on finals day firing on all cylinders like they had done earlier in the competition intermittently, then we might have seen them climb a few spots. But unfortunately, things just didn't go their way on that day. Maybe they were just having issues. I'm not sure. But yeah, things didn't go their way on finals day. And that's reflected there on the ladder.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's exactly the same
Alrighty.
thing I have with Crazy. They had a good day on the last day.
Yep. Next on the list, we have... Where did it go? Anomaly.
We have Anomaly.
The first of a million Adelaide teams from this year.
And we've talked about people having a rough finals day. No, Anomaly had it real rough. Third.
Yep.
And a big drop.
Yeah, they dropped
from
4
when they would see
places.
Yep.
So they were expected to finish 21st, so...
They were predicted on Sync's list to finish 21st, that is correct. So I believe that's the first team that we've predicted correctly.
Yeah.
Yep. On Doug's list with a score of 0.096, they were supposed to finish 22nd.
Yep.
Anomaly.
So Anomaly had 4 rookies this year. Zeph, Happy, Axiom, and Pendragon.
Seth has played before.
Zeph.
Seth, is it Seth? One of them's played before.
That's Crow, I believe.
Oh, Crow.
Crow's played before.
Yeah. So Crow and Wolfie have played nationals before. However, they did have 4 rookies with them. So I think, coming into a nationals with 4 new players out of 6 and finishing at 21st, I think is pretty good.
Oh, it's fantastic. And if anyone, Jesse's one of my ultimate favourite players now. What a lovely gentleman he is. What a great attitude. this guy has.
For people that don't know names versus aliases, that is
Sorry, it's
Axiom,
alias.
correct?
Axiom, yes, Axiom. Sorry.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous person, and kept this team in good spirits. So it's a shame that they dropped as quickly as they did, because attitude-wise, he kept this team in line.
Yeah. So they finished round robin in 18th. They dropped to 19th in Cascade 1. And then they climbed up to 17th in Cascade 2 before going third on finals day and dropping 4 spots to 21st.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think a lot of that is Wolfie to me, and I'm sorry, Wolfie, you're not going to like what I have to say. Wolfie to me is one of these players that runs around like a chaos mess, and has zero, like, just runs around like chaos, which is great in those games where you need that. Come finals, everybody else is very solid, running around like a headless chook, let you down. And in those tougher games where teams lock down, really does let you down. If I had one piece of advice for Wolfie as a player, is slow down and make your actions deliberate. Make what you're doing deliberate instead of running around like a chaos mess. At least it's what it looks like from the outside. And I've played a lot against Wolfie over the years, and I'm like, man, this guy could be so good if he just slowed down a little bit to think about what's around him.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt about this team in general, is slow down. You're not all hero, not everyone can be a hero. You need to back each other up. Slow down and make what you're doing, your actions, deliberate. And be more aware of what's happening around you, and you'll find more success that way. And that's what I've always felt. This team has always felt like teams with Wolfie on it have always felt a little bit more chaos. And I've always dreaded it, because anything can happen. Because if that person on a chaos run gets on a great chaos run and gets on a roll, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you can control the chaos, and they are literally then at that point, you know it's happening, and you just got to sit back and be very deliberate about your action against them. You can shut them down really easily, and I feel that's what happened here. Is I had a couple of players that were very chaotic in the nature in which they play, and that then opens up the game to chaos, and that's either really great or really bad. And I feel if those players could judge that moment and just step it down a notch and be very deliberate. Someone I was impressed with in defense was Jeb. No, Jeb's on the other team.
Jeb is on the other team, yeah.
No, Jeb's on the other team. Sorry, my bad. I will get to her eventually. But yeah, they had some defenders that were very cool, calm, and collected, but then we had this chaos inside that team. Axiom is very, very deliberate in his movement, but not everyone around him is. So that can make it hard to coordinate, because you got to play into what your team is doing around you once you get to Nats, right? Can't really stop it at that point, so you got to play your strength to it, which I believe Axiom did really, really well through round robin, Cascade, and Cascade 2. Come finals, add the extra anxiety and panic that comes into you naturally, and it all kind of just fell a bit to the side, and they had a bad day.
Yep.
I'm really sorry. I really do love you, Anomaly. I promise.
It's all good then. All of your insults are gone. No.
Anomaly. So Tech Deck, you guys played Anomaly 3 times, and you won 2 out of 3 games. So bit of a better result against them than Spare Parts.
yeah, definitely. By a margin. I found defense-wise, I felt like I sort of agree with Simi in the terms of the chaos element that was a little bit going on with their team. Again, being in defense, I don't really get to go out and see a lot of what their defense is like. But from the few times where I was able to go out and see it, it was sort of felt like there were a couple people on the team that sort of just had the idea that they were in defense, and then there was other people that had the idea that they were supposed to be attacking, but they never really communicated with each other what was going on. Again, a lot of the things I have to say about teams has got to be either really good communication or just a lack of communication. And these guys, I think, had some games where they thought they reached a level of communication where they just sort of knew what each other were thinking. and they had to work on it just a little bit more, but there was an element of chaos. There was sort of, in defense, like I didn't really see them come and attack us too often, and when they did, they were there for far too long trying to attack and not really getting anything out of it, or they were in and out very quickly. It felt like they were sort of scouting us out, or they were just full on onto us, which can be good, like stopping a team from going out and getting more points. But if you're sitting there for 5 minutes in a base and nothing's happened, or you've just been getting denied the entire time, at some point, when you're leading an attack, you've got to sort of say to the others, let's go.
Yeah, I think in terms of
yeah.
attacking, a very common mistake due to inexperience is getting bogged down at a base, getting too focused on trying to get a base and not recognizing that and either bouncing or going home to reset, switching it up, pulling a third. I'm guilty of it. Anyone that's played NVS with me running a team knows for a fact that...
Anyone who's played against you at Nationals knows that.
Well, when you've got the infatuation, you're like, I should be able to get this base, and they've stopped me from doing it. Now I've got to prove I can get it.
Look, Simi, if I'm not getting your base, but I'm farming 3 of your players for points, I'm hanging around.
Yeah. But no, you are right about the overcommitting, over ego. Declan touched on it before. There is this ego, I should be strong enough, I should get this. Sometimes got to give credit to the other team, and if it's not working, change it up, change the player, change the style. They know what's coming, and they obviously got your button.
Yeah,
today.
I think the most important thing going into any game, regardless of who you're playing with, who you're playing against, is you need to respect every team. As soon as you disrespect a team, or don't show a team the respect that they deserve in the arena, and something goes wrong and you don't get the base or you get denied, you're gonna throw yourself off. And Wax is guilty of it. Wax is very guilty of it.
Oh, yes. Yes. You can use players where you know that if you push their button hard enough, you can tilt them off. Or you can keep them there longer than you'd like because you know that their ego is just not going to let them go until they've done what they expect that they think they should.
Yep, exactly.
And we'll get to that when we get to your team, Declan. But yeah, for me, for Anomaly is the fact that they had some really players that would go with the flow and stick to the plan, and then they just had the crazy. Winning on my mind, yeah, all right. And they need to slow down and be a little bit more deliberate. Get those comms right. Make sure that you respect your leadership enough that whether you agree or not. And I did see a few times faces be pulled when I was reffing because they didn't agree with the comm. And it's like, well, get on with it while you're in the game and discuss it afterwards. The last thing you ever want to do is drop a game because you're questioning your leadership in the game. They can see obviously stuff you can't. And that's what this felt like. There were times where they're trying to pull back in and that just didn't happen. I could be wrong. Yeah. Normally fully aware to send me messages and tell me that I'm wrong because I wasn't playing in the game. They did ref a few where whether you guys know it or not, whether you're conscious or not of it, you definitely pulled body language that says, I don't agree with this and I'm not on board. So.
I think, there's... When you're attacking, you definitely need someone that's there as your lead attack, the person who really makes calls. But if you feel like if you aren't the lead attack and you're going out attacking, it's not working, I feel like there's no reason that you shouldn't bring something up or just go and talk to that person and be like, look, this isn't working. Like, can we leave? Like, can we do something else? Can I switch out with someone else? I think there's a lot of mix of the lead person not quite sure what to do and just deciding to continue doing what they're doing. And then the person accompanying them just being like, well, they've made the call. Like, I'll just do whatever they say. I think it's just new players. It happens with every new player. I was doing it a lot. I wasn't really questioning too much, but then also there were other people who we'll get to when we go into it, who were coming back, and then I was definitely taking charge of defense. Yeah, it's just, especially as a new player, you're trying to figure out what your role is on the team and whether or not it's something that you actually want to do, and you have to be comfortable enough to make any sort of calls. You can't just sit there the entire time letting it just being like, I'm hands off, I'll let someone else make the calls, because if they make the calls, something goes wrong, it's not my problem.
Sometimes, though, too many chiefs make a problem too.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm.
Alrighty.
Yeah,
Next
true.
team on the list, we have the Hobart Archangels.
Oh, the team I would have been on if I had stayed a Tassie player. What a lovely team this one is.
Hobart Archangels, Mantis, Grays, Sega, Karen, Easy Points, and Captain Morgan. On Sync's list, they were predicted 22nd.
22nd.
On Doug's list, they were supposed to get the wooden spoon with a score
Oh,
of
really?
0.016.
Ooh.
Yep,
There
that
was
was
a
on Doug's
lack of
list.
belief in them.
Both of those
It's
predictions
just
were very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Very, very wrong.
Yeah, they did very well. I also want to preface before we get into this and we say anything bad to them. Every player on that team was so lovely. I chatted with a few of them. They're just really nice people.
Firebird has actually just said in chat, friendliest team in the comp.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that. Friendliest team in the comp. What a great attitude. These guys had a great attitude. At no point did I see heads down, which is important, which is why I think they broke both their predictions, because at no point did they turn on each other, and I think that's really important, at least from what I saw. They were all supporting each other. They were all, and so I think they got a result that they can be proud of, and I know they're proud of it, because they didn't turn on each other and they didn't drop their heads.
Yep.
Which is really great.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys impressed me. I refed a few of their games as well, and I think with the lack of experience of some of their players being pretty new, their structure in game was very, very solid. They were always in the right positions. Not always, but mostly in the right positions. Their communication was, for the most part, pretty good. When they were quiet, they were pushing out for points. I think their biggest fall down was they were too slow to collapse when they did get pushed by other teams.
Yes, and I'm going to point out something before we go too far. The two women on this team are the highest for the tag ratios on this team. That would be Mantis and Grays. They were their backbone, which was fantastic to see. Everyone else's tag ratios were down, and obviously both of them were playing. Mantis was playing a bit more floaty from when I was reffing, but they were both heavier defenders. But yeah, both the women on this team, 109 out of 23 games for Grays, 119% tag ratio, and 125 for Mantis out of 22 games. So they sat a lot, the women, and I'm going to look at the boys there to say their record proved for you that they were solid. So there might be some adjustments there on that side.
I'm just looking at this list here, and they pretty much all played the same amount of games. Karen played 21, Captain Morgan played 19, and the rest of the team all played 20.
Oh, because they've got, I was going to say on Doug's report, it's got some of them played 23. Your Captain Morgan's played 21, Mantis played 22, Karen played 24, Sega played 22.
How many games did they play on finals day? 3. Okay, maybe that's the difference. Maybe based on just doesn't have the finals day stats updated.
Maybe. That probably checks out.
Yep.
I'm only challenging. Like I said, I'm happy for Easy Points to come and throw shade at me. I have all the time in the world for Easy Points. I have all the time in the world for everyone on this team. Captain Morgan is one of the most solid. You give him a plan and he'll stick to it. Hell or high water, that man. I would play on a team with him anytime, knowing I wouldn't have to stress that he's going to go against the plan. So,
Yeah.
but I did love these guys. I really, really did.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun to verse.
Did they take? I thought they took a big scalp, at least one big scalp, or maybe they didn't. By the look of that chart, no, they did not.
From versing them, this is one of the teams, and getting back to it, communication was fantastic. I reckon this is just one of the teams that, if they practice a bit more, like as them as a team, they'll probably do a lot better than what they ended up doing. They did better than what was predicted of them, which is fantastic. But yeah, I reckon these guys just need a bit of time and they can do even better. Like, I don't really have any faults with them. They were attacking us, they sort of knew what they were doing, and sort of a bit opposite to the chaos of Anomaly. They came in, if they just could see that this probably wasn't going to work out, it was going to take too long to get our base, they were out. They knew what they were doing. They didn't have any sort of quarrels with each other about what they should have done. They trusted each other to actually make calls. You could see who was lead attack, but you could see the lead attack taking any orders from the person that was supporting them. It was actually fantastic. I don't have a problem with these guys at all.
I think this team has a lot of potential.
Yes.
They're on a lot of the structural and foundation skills. They're like 90% of the way there as a team. If they can work on tightening it up, timing their floats a little bit better, collapsing a little bit quicker, I think they can do a lot better than they did this year. And it's just going to come down to practicing. You know, get that training in.
Interesting point for these guys. They may not have the same lineup. Tassie are planning to send 3 teams, and there is a spot available on the Vikings.
Okay.
So you can imagine that they're all wanting their spot. And if I know Rick as well as I think I do, no one's getting a walk onto the Vikings. They're going to have to earn it.
Yep.
So that is only going to push them and propel them further next year, based on what they've already done as a team this year. It's only going to push them harder because attitude will be key as well. So there'll be elements that CV is looking at for who gets to go up. If it is anyone from there, or if they did, but there is a spot available. My understanding is there is a spot available on Vikings, and they will need to earn their spot. Whoever is lucky enough to get it.
Yep.
And it won't be luck; it will be pure hard work.
Absolutely. So having a look at their progress throughout the competition, obviously at least most of their team had some pre-nats experience at Bendigo this year.
Yep.
And I think that's reflected pretty accurately across their progression through the competition. So they finished round robin in 17th. They dropped to 18th after Cascade 1. They stayed in 18th through Cascade 2, and then they dropped 2 spots to 20th in System D. And I think what that is going to come down to is teams moving up over them as the competition progresses because they are inherently a little bit better than Archangels were. But the other teams needed to take that little bit of time to learn the arena and figure out how to set up and how to work out their strategies. And as the comp progressed, their strategies just worked better than Archangels did, which pushed Archangels down a few spots through the competition.
Yeah. And for Easy Points, who was the captain here, he'd spent his 2020, so his first year, underneath me. So this was his first time stepping up to the big plate.
Yep.
So, and this team being fresh faces as well, when he did get stuck, while he could go to the A team, schedules being what they were, they probably weren't on big crossovers on site to help them get out of those sticky wickets. So he was on his own, and I'm very proud of what he did there. Yes, Dave has captained teams and stuff before, but it's really not his strong suit. His strong suit is being a soldier. So for Easy Points, this was a big step forward, which I think he handled great.
Mhm.
Seconds, and they still didn't have a down face, which I think is important.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so moving on up into 19th, we have the Darwin Dingoes.
Oh, let's all wail on the potato that is Tricky.
That being said, big props to Tricky, who was the runner for his triples team this year. Watching Tricky run is a joy.
It is very much a joy, and I love you, Tricky, but I needed to call you.
So they've had a bit of a roster change from Darwin. I think this is the first established team so far on this list.
Mm-hmm.
So, from Darwin Nationals, they no longer have Broken. They no longer have Leo. They no longer have Dot. But they've picked up Shifter, Scuttles, Exo, and BattleBot.
Hey. Yep.
Who all played Darwin Nationals as well. So that's a bit of a call up for those guys. Bubbles obviously running the show as usual. Sync's list had Dingoes at 16th. So we were off by that for a few spots.
Yeah, Doug's list had Dingoes at 16th
Oh, there you go.
as well.
Unanimous
So
and yet wrong.
Unanimous in there. Yep, the math had 16th and yet wrong. Yep. That's fair. They did take some big scalps, these guys, though. They did have had some good luck against tougher teams.
Yep. So they were actually sitting at 15th, 16th for most of the competition. So Sync's list and Doug's seeding were looking pretty accurate right up until finals day. Dingoes had a bad run on finals day, going a second, a third, and a third, and dropping 4 spots.
So yeah, Dingoes did manage to take out, I'm pretty sure, Vikings during the tournament. Who else did they take out? Blitz as well.
Yep.
So they had enough in the thing. I think one of the things is whether it be good or bad, refed a game where Bubbles just gave up as captain because no one was listening to him. And his team was doing God knows what, and I do agree with him that he ended up, and with fairness, there was about a minute left in the game and he needed to reload, and he just stood by the entranceway to exit the arena. I've never quite seen something like it, but I do agree with him that his team weren't listening to him, so he just because Bubbles had a great year.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
Personally. He had a fantastic year personally. It was just, I think with some of the step-ups, and everything else, and he was captaining, there was certainly some egos or something at play, where there was where we talked about earlier, some resistance against following the lead, or being where they were supposed to be, and his comms were clear, just his team was not listening.
Yep.
And I was surprised to see that from Bubbles, but it did happen. To be fair, to Shifter and Tricky were behind that game. Yeah, look, I'm not going to call out who it was. I am aware that Shifter and Tricky are clear of this. But yeah, but he wasn't wrong. He really was trying and had a chance to make some opportunities. His teammates were not where he needed to be, and he lost every one of those opportunities. And that is important. It doesn't matter what you think. If your captain is telling you where he needs you to be, you need to be there. Because he really did. As a referee, I could see he lost every opportunity because either they were too slow to get there, or they just didn't show up, or they thought they knew better. And so Bubbles couldn't get anything across the line because he had no one backing him up. And as a captain, that's really not great, because if you make a mistake, you walk out, you own it. But if your team don't show up for you and you can see the opportunity, but they're not there, yeah, you might as well clip your gun up and stand by the entranceway to the doorway, because what effectiveness are you being? And that in that moment is what I saw. Sorry, Bubbles. Didn't mean to call you out for it, but I did see it. And I feel like it reflected your week.
That's pretty good.
Dingoes was another team as well that had a player leave early in the competition. Exo had to go home early. Can we also call out? Yeah. Can we also call out Tricky for his little tech fail during the year?
Which one was that?
Which one?
The chip in the hand that didn't work with the log-on card.
For all of you that don't know, Exo and Tricky get their chips put in their hands so they never forget their logon card. PNC made some changes this year that made them it not work. So therefore, he went to all the effort of embedding this thing into his skin for it not to work.
It's just fun.
Yes.
Because it's fantastic. It's the future of technology, and yet we update something and it just becomes obsolete.
I think we played Dingoes like 3 times as a team. The Orcas.
You guys played the Dingoes twice.
Twice.
Yep.
Why did it feel like 3 times?
Yeah, you played them twice, you beat them both times.
Yes. Not to say that we didn't go in there with respect to say that they might throw something interesting at us, as that's what we were thinking. But again, I felt like Bubbles was always running around trying to find somebody.
Yep.
Or trying to get somebody on the same page as him to execute what he needed to execute. Which made it really easy because then as the further the game goes on, the more he's getting agitated and it's throwing his game off, so he wasn't performing as well as he should. So it made it really easy.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue for Dingoes this year was probably a combination of Bubbles screaming and just a lack of discipline from a few of the players on the team. And that ties together with what you were talking about before, Simi, with just people not being where Bubbles needed them to be, and missing opportunities as a result of it.
Yep. And it's really frustrating when you're observing that from an outside perspective, and you're just like, man, oh, if you only knew. But that player in that time that wasn't listening to Bubbles, it really thought that they were correct.
Yep.
What I would say to you is, you're correct with the information you might have, but it's not your role to make that call.
Yeah, and that's why we have GCs in games specifically, because they call the shots. And if you have too many people trying to shot call, then things just aren't going to work, because people are calling for different things to happen, and you can't just do different things at the same time. It just doesn't work. It's how things fall apart.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that we covered, I think, with our team, was if someone has made a call, whether or not you agree with it, or even if it's a plan for the game, whether or not you agree with it, you go with the plan, because if it doesn't work, or if it's not working, you can change it either in-game, or at least we know that we followed the plan and we know that it doesn't work.
Still using my lines, I see, Brad. Wow. After all these years, still using my lines.
Hey, look, it worked. It worked. We listened to each other and we just went, okay, cool, you made this plan. If it doesn't work, we at least know it doesn't work. Like every game was just an opportunity to learn whether or not something worked for the team. And if it didn't work, then we knew that. If it did work, then we could either work on it and try and modify it and make it better, or we could just try and continue with that one.
Yep, and we'll get to your team, because I got plenty of feedback for your team too.
Did I just mute myself for that bit? I am scared.
Well, yeah, for Dingoes, that is my feedback. Guys, if you pick a captain, do the respect for an honourable thing of listening to your captain. Your captain, and I don't know what Bubbles is like outside of the arena because I didn't see enough of it, should take the blame if something doesn't go right, if you all follow the plan. But if you don't, he does not need to take that blame, because you let him down by not following the plan, so you don't know if it was or wasn't going to work.
It's not even necessarily taking the blame or like being the one who made the plan, so therefore it's your fault. It's more so making the plan and you leave the arena, everyone's agreed that this is the plan we're going to go with, it doesn't work, you don't necessarily then go, well, your plan sucks. You just sort of go like, okay, cool, that plan doesn't work.
You walk out and you go, yep, I own that. That didn't work out the way I wanted. We won't do that again. We'll move on to something else. But you can't do that, and you can't have those constructive conversations if everyone on your team is believing they know best.
Yep.
Don't do it. It's just bad, people.
You can't say a plan doesn't work if your team doesn't follow your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brock in the chat there can't learn from if everyone did their own thing. Absolutely 100%. And also just makes attitude and conflicts because you'll have some people that believe one thing and the other person believe the other thing, and then you're all off the same page. Bubble says, I think I took criticism well, but the others may say differently. Yeah. And that's fair. You got to learn. If you got to find out if they thought you took it well or not and adjust there yourself, Bubbles. But I'm with, from what little I saw, Bubbles, I'm with you. I understand why you hung up your phaser, and I understand why you left. You want to leave me alone. I get it. I have come close with some of my teams in the past doing the same thing, so I felt your frustration in that moment. Was shocked to see it from you personally, but I also completely understood in that moment.
Alrighty, next on the list, Tech Deck, the Quackening.
Yes.
Plank, the BMW, Elmo, Squids, Stinky, and Tech Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sinks list, predicted at 19th, so almost accurate. One off.
So Doug's list had the Quackening at 18th.
Hey,
with a score
we
of
lived up to expectations.
0.212. Yep.
Yeah.
So you lived up to Doug's expectations.
Yeah. I will say that first Format D game that we had, I decided that I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit out the first one. I've come up with a strategy for my team. It works for them. I'm going to let them go do it. So I give all of the props from that first game of us winning that to my team. They did fantastic. Again, it sort of comes back to the whole idea of strategy. It's like I might have created the strategy, but they acted it out and it worked perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight, because I actually think that you guys should never have been in the deathmatch in the first place. I think a Cascade 2 let you down. But the Quackening had one of the best track records for finals day with a first to second, first, second.
Yep.
And you guys don't get a full system D, so you are in death matches constantly. So props there to your leadership for getting you through all those death matches. I believe your Cascade 2 let you down. You should never have been in the realm, and we were very proud of you right up until Cascade 2.
Well, interestingly enough, looking at the Cascade 2 results, the Quackening, Aegis, and Spare Parts were all tied on comp points, and that final spot in the death game was down to average score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still think they had a rough Cascade 2. From round robin to Cascade 1, they seemed to look like they'd learned. And then Cascade 2, I saw some bad habits creep in, like egos got better of them. That they thought, yeah, we're doing better than we thought we would. And now I'm going to throw everything I've learned out the window and not capitalize on it.
I would like to say that one of the Cascade 2 games we did really well, and then we had to replay the game.
Yes.
So that was kind of sucky, but like at the time I wasn't too happy about it, but looking back at it, it happens. It's, yeah. Yeah, like Stinky said, we lost I think it was 2 or 3 really close games for Cascades 2, which was a bit unfortunate.
But I think there's things you could have closed off in those games that wouldn't have let that happen too. I'm going to give Plank the same feedback I gave Wolfie. Slow down, and I gave him this all the way before we went to Nationals. Please slow down and make your moves deliberate. He also didn't listen to his team. He also tunnel vision bases. And he... It felt like when he was in defence, as soon as you got in a position where he had both his bases and he was back in defence, you did not have him. He thought he knew best and he thought he'd run off. There was definitely lots of games, because we were obviously invested in you good old Quackening boys, that we watched your games. Everyone else is doing their part and Plank's run off.
Yeah, I had
Plank's
more
come
than a
back
few
late.
Yep. I had more than a few conversations with him being the last line or 5 and telling him, I'm like, the defense is my area. I'm like, if you come back and you're defending, you listen to me. You do not push out unless I tell you to. I'm like, because the moment that you push out on your own, I don't know where you are. Someone's come in through the way that you were supposed to be protecting, and then suddenly we basically have 2 defenders, and then you come in whilst the base is getting taken. It's just too late.
Yeah. I also watched several times as players on your team tried to pull him out of bases, and he was not having it.
Yeah.
which let you down. And this all happening. These were games in Cascade 2 I watched. I refed a couple of them as well. And there was that as well. And Stinky, I'm going to say the same to you. If things aren't going well, you drop your head, mate. And then your playstyle goes down. And your effectiveness goes down with it. So my advice, and then new players, and I'll give them this. I have given them this advice at home, but I'm calling you out on the stream. Is I saw it that in both of them as well. And Declan, I overwatched you stress and try to fix it in game
Yeah.
rather than wait till after game,
Yeah.
which then put anxiety on the players around you because you're now firing off. And Brad, as
Yeah.
always, you're too quiet. Comms are great when there's not too much pressure on, but as soon as the pressure on, you are silent as a kitten. So that is my advice to you guys going forward: is each of you have something to work on. I'm so
Yeah.
mean. I feel so mean, but I'm calling it
No,
as
no,
I
no,
see
no.
it, Mike, and
I completely accept that. I found that like my worst thing when I was like starting doing all the stuff when we were doing practice and we're having all the fun rounds was that in defense I would either be too afraid to make the calls or I would just sit there and sort of freak out too much. Exactly like you said, I was trying to fix a game that we had lost. Or like that we were just or I was just trying to be like, okay, cool. Again, it comes back to exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the stream. What can I do? It's like there's so much. There's only so much that you can do as yourself, but it's like if you're not trying to focus on what your team is actually doing and trying to get your team to do stuff, you're not going to go very far.
Yep.
It's yeah, and yes, I 100% agree. Plank does run like a spider on a tin roof. It was actually the amount of times we rewatched a couple clips of him just half crouched down running along was just hilarious.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I've been on your guys' cases about making your game awareness far
Yeah.
more deliberate,
Yeah.
and not over panicking.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with Plank and I. The very big difference between us is like even though he's attack and I'm defense, is for him a lot of his stuff is very instinctual. He's sort of just thinking what's he gonna do next, not thinking of what am I doing now. Whereas I'm too busy trying to figure out what am I doing now, and not sort of letting myself figure out what I'm doing and trying to think a little bit ahead. Which could be great in both cases. I think for Plank it works really well in attack because he can sort of go out there. He can sort of he needs to act on it, but he does have those thoughts where he's like, right, cool, like what am I doing next? Is this going well? Should I actually bother staying here? Which he doesn't act on, which is a little bit, is a little bit of a sad thing. But in the same vein, I'm exactly different. I'm the exact opposite. I'm in the base. I'm sort of sitting there freaking out because I'm like, there's people in the base. I can't think of what's going on next because I'm too busy dealing with these people.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's also important. I watch you guys. What it felt like from the outside is over panic when you didn't need to panic as well. So there was no trust in the attack either.
Yeah.
So there was no trust because you don't know what they're seeing. They don't know what you're seeing. So the over panic has creeped in, and then we're all barking in panic, and that panic has then meant the difference between those close games being a win and those close games being a loss.
I think With so we can quickly wrap up this section on my doom. I think the last day it was the culmination of all of the games we played previously. It was the perfect time for us to sort of go like, cool, this is our strategy. We're going to stick with it. As long as we don't get last in this first game, we like don't have to worry too much. And because we weren't stressing too much, we were playing better because we weren't putting so much pressure on each other and ourselves.
Yep.
And it worked out really well for us in the end.
What you guys are going to now go and come home and figure out is how you emulate your final day on the days prior.
Yeah.
Lavoli, you can have a crack at them now. I've been a mean.
I don't think I need to. I think you've done all the damage that needed to be done.
My soul is just splintered.
I say all these things about all you people in the interest of love. And you can absolutely tell me I'm wrong. I'm not always right because I'm just talking from where I see things.
Yeah. No. I think that's the best thing is actually being able to talk now later on looking back at it as someone playing in, and then having someone else outside the game being like, "This is how we saw you play." Yeah,
That's
no,
what you're looking forward to the next weekend too, Declan, with the Orcas.
yeah, yeah. I'm prepared to sit there and wallow in silence.
I think there's plenty of good there too to come from you guys. We were super excited when you guys got out of the death match. We were super excited why you guys weren't near the wooden spoon area. The great wins that you guys had, we were at home cheering you on, or on site reffing. You
Yeah.
guys did us proud, and don't think that you didn't. We're now going to get you the next level, so that we're definitely not in the realm of looking at the wooden spoon.
Yeah. Just to quickly touch on what Ginger Mage said. Yeah. Squids was fantastic. He's such a great guy, even at home. And yeah, he loves this sort of like competitiveness to it. So he was definitely so much fun to hang out with. Even outside of the games, I think we worked out well as a team. We all got along pretty well. And everyone was more than willing to take on any feedback that anyone else had. I know that we laid into Plank a lot about for some of his stuff, but he was so happy to. We talked about it, like, we're not doing this because we hate you. He's like, no, I would rather you guys tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yes, and I can get away with saying what I did because we've obviously had the same relationships at training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, let's move on before we get stuck here.
Can we just talk about one shout out to Squids' absolutely king style of wearing big, warm robes at site? Jealous.
Yeah, he brought his
Jealous.
sleeping. Oh, you should have seen him on the plane. He had that. He had a coat. He had his dressing gown over it. He was prepared.
Alrighty, next
Great
team
fun.
on the list, my old Rumble team, Leviathan. Tuscan, Nightmare Rose, Sicarius, Yazbekistan, and Oddity. So Oddity and Sicarius being rookies this year. Tuscan, Nightmare Rose, and Yazbek all having played on a team together in the past. Sync's list had them at 18th, so missed it by 1.
Doug's list had Leviathan at 20th with a score of 0.193. So they did better.
Yeah. So having a look at the progression through the comp, they finished round robin in 20th. They climbed to 17th in Cascade 1. They climbed to 16th in Cascade 2, and then they dropped back to 17th on Finals Day. They went 3rd, 1st, 3rd, 3rd on Finals Day.
They got a win on Finals Day, which is important.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. There's nothing like getting a win on Finals Day. It's so motivating.
It does feel pretty good.
And their win was against Aegis and Archangels.
Yes. Which I would have expected them to win. This team had the right balance of new versus experience.
Yep.
Even though Justin's still relatively new.
Oh, he's been playing longer than I have.
Yeah, but you're still relatively new in my eyes.
Fair.
Come on, talk to me when you get to 20 years.
I'm a Helios baby. Yeah, I get it.
It's like, Simi, there are very few people that couldn't be here for longer than you, so...
Oof. Yeah.
Look, not all of us have been able to play laser tag since the beginning of time.
Now you're just quoting Dodge and
Simi, you've
Grub.
literally been playing longer than I've been alive.
I'm aware. Very aware.
So, Nightmare Rose obviously has built himself a reputation as the bringer of development from Sydney. With obviously Leviathan the last couple of years, Chimera before that. Yeah, he's brought a development team. Actually, no, he wasn't on Chimera. He has been on a development team every year since I started, bar 1. So he's always bringing the new players in, teaching them, getting them to their first nationals, and I think it's great to see. And I mean, developing players like Tuscan in particular. He has played really well the last couple of years. Like he was fantastic at the Rumble last year. He did well this year in Bendigo as well. Um, and I think being backed by Yazbekistan anchoring in defense, I think it was pretty good for them. Sicarius was out on attack a lot, I believe, with Nightmare Rose. And
Yes.
Oddity was another one shoring up the defense with them. Who's not hugely experienced, but his timing is deceptively good. I played lore against him, Lord of the Rings in one game against him this year, and he beat me far more often than I would have liked to admit.
Got your number, does he?
Yeah, it was humbling.
Well, the good thing is you're able to
I
admit it.
I love Justin in these development roles, and I'm glad to see that it's keeping him out of danger of wooden spooning.
Yep.
I like watching him develop these teams and bring in these new players. For Justin's sake, I really hope that it ends in a top 10 team for him eventually along the track, as he's put in a lot of time and effort into your scene.
Yes,
Now-
definitely.
Oh, sorry, into your old scene. Now, they did have a couple of really good wins. As we have a look there at the, bar graph that you've got up there, they had some great wins. They are a team. Justin is someone that you must respect.
Yep.
When you go into an arena, it doesn't matter where his team is on the ladder. You must respect him because he will punish you if you don't.
Yeah. They took a win against Hellhounds, which is something that Catalyst did not do.
That's only because you versed them once, though, because they were too far down the ladder for you to verse again.
Correct. But it was one of two teams that we did not win against this year.
So fair.
Fair enough.
But they also took down, so that grey line is, the teams that are above them. And so they had some success with beating teams out that are above them on the ladder, which is important.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're the first team that we've looked at as we've gone through this 6 list that did that more consistently than not.
Yep.
They were very close within their range, so that just means great things for Justin going forward. They're taking out the teams that those slight ladder variations before them. So that to me says he's on the right track to start chipping away at those next 4 positions.
Yep. I did ref a few of their games this year as well. I think some important advice for a number of their players is they need to focus on not letting their emotions get to them in game. A few of them get frustrated pretty easily and they get pretty flustered as a result. When things are going good, they're going real good, but as soon as things start to go wrong, it kind of spirals for them. I think if they can fix that, they'll be a lot more consistent in the future. And yeah, I think that's something that at least a couple of them definitely need to work on.
I was going to say I have the same feedback. I saw a lot of body language, drop heads, and everything else. Once you've talked yourself out of a moment, you'll never get yourself back in the moment.
Yep.
And that moment could mean the difference between a convert on the board and the convert not on a board. So don't ever give up and don't ever drop your head in frustration and anger until you get out of that arena. Keep firing, keep doing it. And if you're not sure of that, there were a number of close games over this Nationals where it literally was decided in the last 3 minutes of a game.
Yep.
Right, from third to first.
I mean, we
Go
can
back and watch those games because those players didn't give up.
I mean, we can talk about, just as an example quickly, Brisbane Eclipse in the grand finals. Their first game, they had 17,000 points. And they brought it back in games 2 and 3, and they were, 1,800 points away from first.
Yep.
That's huge.
August did it in the grand final against Tassie and One Up. We were clearly behind. I got the commentary from my team is I was sitting that game. I'm sorry for what we did to you. We literally won it in the last minute and a half of the game.
Yep.
But my team is programmed not to give up to the last moments of the game. So good advice there, Volley, is dropping your head in anger and frustration and defeat is certainly ensure that what should have been a close game won't even convert for you. You're done like a dinner the moment you do it.
Yeah, if
And
you
if
get
you do
denied...
go.
I was just going to say, if you get denied, like, in the first couple of minutes of a game, instead of dropping your head and letting your team down for 8 or 9 minutes, if you need to, just walk away for 10, 15 seconds, reset, come back. Just keep your head in the game, and you'll do a lot better than you will if, you get frustrated and you let your emotions get the better of you, especially if it happens early in a game.
Yes, and what you're doing, the moment you body language screams, 90% of human interaction and communication is actually nonverbal, and that will cascade through your team. The other thing that you need to consider is, as another team, as soon as they know they've got you on tilt, they're going to capitalize on that, and they're going to push you and push you and push you. And that's all fair as far as I'm concerned, as long as they don't violate any code of conduct rules. Putting a little bit of extra pressure on you when you're in that mindset is perfectly fine. It's all fair in love and war.
Yep.
And everything else. But there are teams out there that will capitalize on that. And you need not to do it, and you need not to be aware, and you need to be aware of how much your personal body language affects not just you, but teammates as well. So as soon as they think you're out of it, that will just cascade through your team. Because all of a sudden your communication is dodgy, you're coming across angry, you're coming across frustrated, and so no one thinks that they can get you back into the page, get you back on track. So
yep. And that attitude doesn't affect just yourself either. Like, once your teammates pick up on that, they're going to realize, and that's going to filter across through the rest of your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've had a couple games during there where I've gotten pretty tilted and annoyed, not necessarily with other people, but just with my own team, and left it feeling pretty shitty, and then looking back on it later on, sort of being like, I let my team down by letting myself sort of stick in that mindset, because almost part of me was just like, if I stick in this mindset, they might do better. And it's like, yeah, no, it's one of those things, exactly what you said, Volley. You need to take those 10, 15 seconds, just pull away, breathe, remember that you don't need to drop your head or get annoyed until the end of the game, because those last 3 minutes can decide everything.
Yep,
And
exactly.
most importantly, we're like no other sport. We don't know the score, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And there is the worst thing about watching it back on the stream and realizing the moment you dropped your head and watch your score go down instead of watch your score go up.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Alrighty, next team. 16th, Adelaide Aegis. Wardy, Pogsley, Benny, The Wall, Darwin, and SSG.
I would say these were all pretty cool people.
Yeah. I have to apologize, Aegis. Sinkless had you at 23rd. I am very sorry.
Aegis on Doug's list had them at 21st with 0.137. A lot of that would be because there's a lot of new players there, I would suspect.
So Pogsley has been playing for 6 months before he came to Nats, so...
Oh, that young man impressed me.
Yeah.
What a great energy Pugsley has as a person. That must have been really, really beneficial for the team during down moments. That energy from Pugsley. I really hope he continues to play, just because he made me smile when I was grumpy, which is not an easy feat whatsoever. Whether he knows it or not, there was just a couple of times he just stopped me and asked me if I was okay, and gave me a smile and just brightened my moment. Pugsley.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Got one of his shirts, so I was pretty happy.
So interestingly enough, Doug's seeding was pretty accurate the whole way through the competition for Aegis, right up until finals day. Round robin, Cascade 1 and Cascade 2, they were sitting in 21st, and they had 3 wins and 2 seconds on finals day to climb up 5 spots.
Yeah. Which is huge, right?
Yes. That's a big finals day.
Yeah, it seems like Adelaide did like the big, huge finals days, and we'll get to a couple of their other teams. But Aegis had a good run here on that finals day, which would have kept them all nice and pumped up and ready to go. This was a team I felt that were suffering from dropped heads a lot during the week.
Yep.
A lot of disagreements on strategy and ways forward. Certainly felt like tension in and out of the arena some days, on bad days. But obviously, finals day was a good day, and they ran that roller coaster a lot. Which goes to show when you're nothing to lose and you're on a winning streak, a win in a finals is momentum building, and they kept momentum building on that finals day.
Yeah.
They still had a little bit of success, again, like Leviathan, but not as strong as Leviathan's record outside of above them. So they took a couple of wins off, is that Hellhounds?
I don't
No, it's
think
Dingoes.
that's
It was
actually
Dingoes.
listed. I'm not entirely sure this grid is.
Have a look. If you have a look down, Aegis got the couple of wins over Dingoes, who are above them.
Well,
no
no,
surprise.
Dingoes is below them.
Oh, below them. Well,
Yeah, I don't think this grid is listed by
you just
ladder.
got, it's not. It's by the. It's just a
Win-loss.
win-loss thing.
Yep.
So over the whole thing, so they did do well with teams that by that grade are supposed to be better than them. So they did get a couple of wins there. They got one against the Archangels, and so they didn't. So teams in and around their area, they were still competitive, which is
Yes.
important.
Yeah,
Very important.
this was one of the teams that we expected to be around our area that we lost all 6 games we played against them. Yeah, these guys.
They were your
These,
kryptonite.
They had your number right
they
from the get-go.
exactly. Yeah, no, these guys had themselves down packed. They did really well. Like I said, it completely surprised me when I found out Pogsley had only been playing for about 6 months before he came to Nats. I was just like, that. Nah, you're lying.
And on Nexus
and-
as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
What a
will
big
say
adoption.
that. Yeah, what was it? The wall. If you saw him running, just move. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Just move out the way. Let him do his thing. Yeah. This whole that versus him in each of the games, I was hoping every game that we would win against them, and we just never did. They really knew how to stop us from winning. Which I think sort of comes back to what we talked about a little bit at the beginning with Simi, how it was just everyone's like, just stop Simi from winning.
Yep.
It's almost like they had this subconscious mindset. It's like, just stop quackening from winning. Yeah.
Well, there is a bit of history there with Aegis and Quackening being in the same realm together.
Yeah.
I certainly know Aegis have had my ticket in the past on some of my lower end teams that they've been more difficult to get around. If we beat them, it wasn't a very good win. It was very rough as guts win. So Aegis are good at exploiting that if they know they've got your number. I certainly have never liked versing them in the past because I never know what's going to get thrown at me. That's probably another thing that Aegis have personally got me on in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely downpacked. They knew how to take us defense-wise. They knew who worked well against us. And even when they were defending, they knew exactly how to push the right buttons of the attackers. And they knew how to keep... I think it goes back a little bit to what we talked about before, keeping like Plank or anyone else that was supporting him in keeping them at their base and just farming points from us. They knew exactly what to do.
SSGs, very much. I don't know an SSG. I'm not actually sure if this is a compliment or not. I'll let Adelaide decide. SSG in 5 very much reminded me of a Simi in 5. Controlling what she could. Very cool, calm and collected for the most part. Towards the end of games, if things felt like they weren't, from her perspective, going well, she might have panicked a little more than she needed to. girl. Just learn to calm, panic internally, not externally.
Yeah.
But she's definitely comms wise that although mighty simmy bellowing, she definitely had some channeling going there. So I'll let you decide whether that's a compliment or not. But
I've decided it is. It's better if it is.
but she definitely, every ounce of her energy, every ounce of her emotion was committed to getting that team across the line, which was quite impressive. Like I said, just her learning to be the calm will be very important to this team going forward. Because she was seeming like she was dictating the emotion when she did panic. I think that translated to some of the others as well, whether it was intentional or not.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like the attitude transference from like one player to the rest of the team is much more noticeable if it's coming from a player that's normally controlling things from their end. So yeah, if SSG was like controlling play from defense and she panicked, then obviously the other players on the team are going to feel that.
Yep. Very much kept on top of her base count scores and things like that. Very well. So she had the base, which was the first player in this end section that I didn't hear screw up who had what. And relaying that information back every time their attackers came through. One of the things I did find is their attackers weren't acknowledging her and repeating back to her. So I would pressure the attackers in this situation is she actually had accurate base counts. Whereas some of the other team that were translating it to you actually didn't, which I thought was interesting. Acknowledge her and feed that information back. When your player from defense gives you the count of 3 or 4, repeat it back so they feel acknowledged in the game. And I felt that a bit with her and the team is she was in a way the emotion, whether they knew it or not, but they weren't sometimes often acknowledging her back, which was different. And I certainly know in 5th I felt like that, and that's not the case perception-wise. It's just how I felt. But make sure you echo that comm back to her. If she's giving you good comms, make sure you echo it back. And that goes for any teammate. Make sure you're echoing, especially to your 5th, because your 5th is only ever seeing the base.
Yep.
Yeah.
As someone who has spent a lot of time playing in 5, yeah, I feel that.
Just acknowledge them. Interesting, though, that she had the correct base counts, and twice I heard other team members of her give the wrong base counts. The attackers acknowledged that one, not the correct one, which was interesting.
Just a fun little fact as well. Wardy, who was on Aegis, started the same year as I did, both playing for New South Wales, both lefties, both playing for different teams. So we were very much rivals in our first year in Adelaide. So I did spend a bit of time talking to Wardy this year. It's good to see him on a team and back playing Nationals again, because I don't think he's played Nationals since Adelaide.
I think he's one of those ones that they got stuck and he stepped up to the plate, and I'm with Volley. Vorty, please keep coming. You are a delightful player and have so much to give and learn, so keep coming back, mate.
Yeah, and I mean, for his second Nationals, he made solos finals, so...
A lot of a quite achiever in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
don't have much to add other than it was a great team.
Next on our list, we have WA Hellhounds in 15th. Gaza, Gooby, Arbel, Commander Snake, and Serenity. On Sync's list, predicted to finish 11th.
On Doug's list, Hellhounds were predicted to finish 12th with a score of 0.441.
Oh, there you go. Mikey has just corrected me in chat. Wardy played Sunny Coast with Aftershock.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
He's just a quiet achiever. I feel like he's like the rogue of Adelaide that we always forget he's been around. Rogue doesn't have those issues these days, but for his first 5 or 6 years, every year he'd turn up and somebody would ask, "Is this your first Nats?" To the great delight of his teams. when he at this stage had I think a triples first place trophy, a team's first place trophy. I think he one of doubles with hybrid, and yet people would still ask him if it was his first year. So I feel like Wardy's that player. He's that strong, solid, loyal person that just quietly sits in the background that everyone doesn't notice. Good spot to be in, Wardy. Well, they will eventually notice you, we promise. WA Hellhounds. Who's going to kick this one off?
Alrighty.
It's all you, Volley.
Hellhounds started pretty well. They finished round robin in 13th. They dropped one spot to 14th in Cascade 1, held 14th through Cascade 2, and then dropped another spot in Cascade System D on Finals Day. So their Finals Day results where they went first, third.
So, interesting stat that has been pointed out. Gaza, this is only the second time Gaza's ever won a game on Finals Day. Out of all the years he's been playing, he traditionally doesn't win Finals games.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
That is an interesting stat.
He had a win on Grizzlies in Sunny Coast, and every other time he's played Finals Days, there have been losses. So this year was the second time he got a first place on a Finals Day.
Yeah, okay. That is definitely an interesting statistic.
Yep. So it might be something there they have to adjust, but yeah.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just scrolling a little bit.
I will say one of the things that let them down during Cascades and stuff was I only noticed it when I refed in System D, and I was in their base and they had Gooby, so Gabby defending, and their whole strat that relied around System D was having her in the base and just listening to calls, because when she spoke, she sounded like she'd spoken a 12-pack a day since the day she was born. She sounded horrible.
Lost her voice, or just a bit
just
sick?
Like it was lost her voice. I think it was just Nat's flu, but she just sounded horrible, and it really hurts your team when you can't comm.
Yeah.
I found that one of the first days where I realized I was sick and like I was starting to lose my voice was trying to make a loud call and coming out with a squeak instead. And it's sort of like, and it was in that moment I was sort of like, right, okay, cool. Defense is not going to be too much fun. But it's one of the things that just lets you down. If you can't properly comm with your team, especially when you're a team of 5, you don't have someone to sub out with. It really can be horrible because you can't necessarily step out and just let someone else in. At this point in the comp, you don't want to step out and have someone else step in for you and then you not be able to play again.
Yeah, and losing your voice, especially late in the competition, hurts so much because communication is just so important.
Yeah.
I think losing a voice that is so distinct, because Gabby's voice is so distinct, most females are, losing that distinct voice is very damaging because a female, like, there aren't many of us, but our voices very much are very distinct from the rest of the players in the arena. So you can always know it's us.
Yeah.
And everything else. So losing that voice, that's really not the most fantastic thing to go forward. This team did pick up a couple of scalps.
Catalyst.
They have a win over Catalyst. They also beat us, the Orcas, out of one of our team showings against them. They also had, it was Sabre's number, or they won 2 out of the 5 games that they saw them. But really above them, they weren't really beating anyone. And then if you look at their track record past that middle of the line, nothing where they were convincingly, so they've won, they were 2-2, 3-6, 2-2, 2-3. So they were consistently this mid-pack range team.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this list, they didn't drop any games to any teams that finished below them. Like, not one.
No, but where they were, they really were this mid. So there was nothing where stand out and said, well, they've completely kicked the ass of such and such. I think the only team they've got a 50-50 win ratio was with Adrenaline.
Yes, yeah.
But nothing where they were clearly above
I would
the other
I would
teams.
like to say I disregard that. They kicked our asses in both games we played against them. So I will give them that. They definitely held a hold on us.
I remember speaking to Arbel after our game against them, and they beat us with a strategy that they specifically call the Wolfpack Slayer.
Yes, I've heard this one. Yep. Um, and look, and you get those games where you really want that scalp. I know I've never beaten Wolfpack, but we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks' time. I've come close, but no cigar. But you have those teams where, and they're big wins, and you've got to celebrate those wins because you've won it fair and square.
Yep.
You've got to celebrate those big wins. I play pre-nats 3 with Arvel and Gaza. Certainly some things there is that panic does come in a lot with this team. I think the reliance on one player comes in a lot on this team, and one player doesn't make a team. So Snake did really well. Snake got a second in juniors. He'd never seen, we play Laser Force at home. It's very different. His style going in was very, very different. This guy is a great kid, has a lot of fun. But I did feel a number of times when I was reffing their games that there was a lot of pressure put on Snake without support. That there was frustration being translated in the arena, which wouldn't have helped confidence-wise. And I also feel like this is, one player doing all the work is not going to work.
Yep.
So these guys need to find that strength where everyone has a role, and we're not relying on bases from one person, we're not relying from the score from one person, we're not relying on those things. That input is free and natural across the board.
I think it's I think part of it is, well, here at home playing league and stuff, he's one of the first people out for his team, and he usually gets both bases within first couple minutes. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's nice and quick and fast. If you manage to stop him in his tracks and stop him from getting a base, he accepts that he's probably not going to get it if he stays there on his own and will leave. And I think they attempted to translate that over to Nats, and then because he wasn't able to successfully do it, it just, yeah.
And that's what it felt like. And there were multiple reasons we were playing 4-1 at Pre-Nats 3, but that's what it felt like at Pre-Nats 3, and I felt that translate again when this team went into Nationals. And you need to put some faith there, and get the others out and not put the responsibility on one player and look to all one player to execute the work. They have Arbel there. Arbel has got a trophy from Nationals. He's been in the top 10 of the competition for a very, very long time. He's a very smart, strategic player. I don't believe that was listened to enough.
Yep.
I don't believe that was executed enough, and I feel that is short-sighted. Everyone needs to contribute. If you're in the middle of the pack, any team plan should be given a go. Any changes should be given a go. I certainly would always pay respect to Arbel as a captain in the arena, because I never know what's going to be thrown at me. And I just don't feel. I feel like the reliance is all on one person here.
I feel like Arbel's strategy is usually leave before the game starts. But yeah, it's I think it came down to Snake could have probably chipped in a bit more, in terms of what his strategy and what he saw the outcome or how he reckoned the game should have gone. And unfortunately, his team almost had him in that bubble of, you're a new player, let us handle this. I could be wrong. They could have been listening to him, and then just what happened just didn't quite go to plan. But I feel like he's also put himself in that sort of bubble of just being like, I'm new, I need to listen to what these guys have to say, because what they say is probably a bit more important than what I have to say. Which in some cases does come into effect. Like, definitely for our team, I was listening to Brad and Elmo way more, because they've done it before, and I was more than happy to listen and take into what they had planned. But at the same time, they were still letting us input. They were still letting us, like I said before, that first game on System D was a strategy that I came up with the night before, and they were like, yeah, sure, like, we'll go with it. It sounds like it's going to work. And it did work because they were willing to listen to people who weren't necessarily full on experienced in the Helio system and that. And I feel like that just didn't quite work for the Hellhounds team, unfortunately.
Yep. I think it from what it looks like, just based on the stats alone, it looks like and I could be wrong, but it looks like they had one strategy throughout the majority of the competition, and it worked really well against the teams below them on the ladder, but it also looked like everyone above them that they played had them figured out and knew how to beat them, and that strategy just wasn't working to climb at all.
A good thing to point on, this is the first team we've come across where most of the team's tag ratio is above 100%.
Yep.
This is the first team. There was only one player whose tag ratio was below. Everybody else's was really consistently good. Problem is execution on bases and capitalizing on that fantastic pack skill.
Yep.
And everything else didn't correlate. And you're right. I felt like they had one strategy and they just stuck to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is all well and good for teams below you where you are muscly bigger, and you just have the ability to roll.
Especially when you've got the likes of someone with Gaza who can muscle their way through a lot of bases. But yeah, their strategy just didn't seem to work against the teams above them.
Yeah. From what I experienced versing them, it felt a lot like their strategy was mostly to have two people go and attack and then Gaza come in later, because they were relying on Gaza to be able to get his bases pretty easily later on. And because of that, if the first two people weren't able to come and get the base early on, it's sort of, from what I noticed in my defense against them, it didn't quite work if they weren't coming in and getting it. Unfortunately, they destroyed us, so they were able to quite easily get through us. But it felt like a lot of their strategy was relying on Gaza being their high point person, whereas Arbor was calling a lot more of the shots.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess it felt like there was no depth here. And there should have been depth here.
Yes, I think there's enough experience across that team that they should definitely be able to apply a lot more depth to their gameplay than maybe they did.
Yeah. And Commander Snake did have, while his tag ratio is 88, he was defending, but not all his games were, Currently he had some fire games as a new player that would have been very confidence building as well.
Yeah.
For him, and I think he's got a good foundation now going forward as a new player, that he can only just build on that from here on out.
Yeah, definitely.
And for me, Gaza does have, mechanically wise, very good mechanics of the game. And everything else. He needs to be able to translate and teach the rest of his team those mechanics and get them all very mechanically well, because mechanically wise, Gaza's great.
Yeah.
Execution here for everybody, he can execute and everything else. It's when it comes to him supporting the rest of the team that it falls a little short, because he should be able to, but it doesn't seem to translate. And why that is, I know from my experience of playing with him, is he expects you to do it the way he expects you to do it, rather than, and that's what I felt at Pre-House 3, instead of going in with the support role for multiple variations on the best way to support that player and their mechanics.
Yeah.
So a little bit more work there to work with the team on making sure he's getting the max potential out of them by himself learning to adapt to them, and them adapting to him will be much better flowing forward for this team. Because there's some real bite in this team. It just failed at execution with the one plan, the one idea, and the one push forward.
All bark and no bite.
Correct, and which is a shame, because there is some real talent here. There is some real good mechanics here.
Yeah,
Serenity's
absolutely.
made law round 3 multiple times. Gooby has had a run at the females multiple times. Arbel has so much experience. So there is bite here. Just whether they're utilising the bite between themselves effectively is probably lacking.
Yep. Moving on to our next team. So we've got 4 teams left to go through tonight. And this, I think in the 11th to 24th range, I think this is probably one of the teams I was most impressed by. Adelaide Adrenaline in 14th.
Yeah.
No Idea, Hark Rage, Hillahu, Jesse, Jeb, and Akira.
This is an emotionally charged team. I will give them that. They were so impressive and so hyper and so at it that this was a little team that could not fail.
Yep. So they finished round robin in 14th. They dropped to 15th in Cascade 2. They dropped 4 spots to 19th in Cascade 2, and then they climbed all the way back up to 14th on finals day. They got 3 wins, a third, and 2 seconds on in System D.
Yep.
They played a lot of games.
They did.
And
This really was the little team that could. Shout out right now to the fact that they started the week very emotional, very at each other, very much different points of view going on, which is why we see the little ups and downs in their cascades there. They pulled it back somehow. I don't know if this is just the support from Adelaide in general. Pulled it back somehow, which is impressive in itself in such a short pressure time frame, to get into this absolutely hyper steam locomotive mode that just went smash through finals.
Yep.
They were definitely a team that dropped their heads very early in the competition. Every time they got a loss, we saw that they did a lot of what the teams don't do well, is they adjusted that towards the end of the comp, where they kept keeping their head high and keep concentrating on the next game forward that they hadn't done in the previous, which is really hard to do, especially from such a young captain.
Yep. One thing that I absolutely loved about Adelaide is not only bringing so many teams to nationals this year, but just the amount of support that trickled down from Aftershock and Apex towards their newer teams with a lot of rookies in them. It was great to see a state having such a really good kinship across like a 5-team squad.
I know, it was phenomenal, and I think that helped Adrenaline, where they were dropping their heads and everything else, because at home, like the amount of times I'd hear Adrenaline pumped up because Aftershock had just watched their game.
Yep.
And seen them get a good win, and then just pumped that complete another hype into them. And then they believed that hype, which they should have.
Yep.
But I think prior to that, they weren't believing in themselves. And so between all of that support, just really pumped them up, and they really were the little team that could.
Yeah. On the note of being the little team that could, they took a number of scalps too. They went 1 win, 1 loss against you guys.
Yep.
They took a win off the Vikings.
Yep.
They took a win off Brisbane Eclipse.
Oh, that was a great game to watch too.
Yeah.
That was on your seat.
In my opinion, out of all the teams from 11th to 24th, in terms of structure in a game, I think Adrenaline was really up there. Their structure was on point. Jesse playing outside that back door was incredible to watch.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic player in that spot. Their defensive holds were solid. Their floats were really good. They were well timed. They collapsed really well. I think if this team stays together and trains together with the support from Aftershock, from Apex, from the rest of Adelaide, they are definitely, I reckon, gonna make a push towards that top 10 next year.
I agree with you there, and I think that for these guys, it's probably more important that they get past the we've lost a game head down, which they did, and I'm very impressed they did that during the competition. They just need to start there. And this would have been, far more, and keep getting hyped, keep hyping yourselves up, keep throwing that positive energy at each other, because towards the end of the week, that was all I was hearing from this team, was positive energy towards each other, whereas the beginning of the week was not so great. hearing that positive energy, but certainly towards the end. And I really feel that they capitalized on really supporting each other, revving each other up, getting that, yeah, let's go. You've got this. You've got this. And I really think it's a big difference between why they didn't finish where they started in finals and they just went on this run. And then they got on a train, they got a first, and then a first, they got a third, and I went, doesn't matter, let's go again. And then another first, and then a second and a second. And they really were holding their heads high when they were up there at this. These were exciting games to watch. Lots of noise, lots of hype, and lots of excitement.
Yep, a lot of the hype that Adrenaline had at Nationals was very reminiscent of the hype that Apex had at Prenats 3. Just a lot of noise, a lot of chaos, a lot of just like big energy coming from all the players on the team, and just watching them hype each other up like that was awesome, and it paid off for them, especially on finals day where they kicked ass.
Yep. And I felt early on they weren't following the direction of the captain or following the direction of the plan, and I felt like as they went through the week, and I think that has a lot to do with Apex and Aftershock helping out, is get that faith behind your leadership, get that, and they really did. They were a team that went from to build to build to build to build to build.
Yep.
Sorry the competition ended where it did, guys, because I felt if we had another couple of days worth, you guys would have given everyone a shake for their money up a little bit higher.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like I said, for 11th down, probably one of the most structured teams in the arena.
Yep, comms were loud. One feedback, guys, is probably a bit. I've said to everyone, not enough comms. You guys probably overcommed in the arena.
I think there's a certain level of comms that you need to have. It's always great to have all the information that you need, but if one person is just being loaded with all the information, especially if they're like your middle person, if you're expecting them to go between defense and attack to tell everyone what's going on, that person ends up running around the entire arena the entire time, running between defense and attack the entire game, not really trying to get anything for their team or try to do something for their team.
For me, just long complicate. Like some of their teammates were very long comms.
Yeah, got to keep it concise.
Correct. Short, sharp, simple. Come up with your code words or whatever it is that you need to communicate effectively and short and sharp. And I feel like that's because they were a little higher than they predicted they would be. But yeah, short, sharp comms, guys, because I know sometimes they're trying to translate a story. You don't need to translate the story till after the game. Get those comms shorter and sharper.
I would like to say something that I think is way too more controversial than it should be. Front pocket and back pocket is the stupidest comm I've ever heard.
Hard disagree.
I think facing and pocket is perfect because in the middle of a battle, if someone calls front pocket and all they've heard is pocket, they're just gonna shoot at whichever one they might think it is. And 50% of the time you'd be right. The other 50% of the time you shoot the wrong spot, and then your teammate's like, "I commed it was front, not back."
Well, that's
it's a difficult one. That one because you're not used to having so many pockets in one base, but short sharp is better. We purposely tried to go away from having duplicate comms for that reason, not having the same word. So if the only word you catch is the back end, it's not any good. Works if you say pocket and front the other way around.
Yeah, well, that's always something interesting. Every Nationals is just like the call outs for different states is always conflicting. So I know Queensland used front pocket, back pocket because that's something that we use at both Queensland sites. Front pocket, back pocket for a lot of bases. But then you've got some teams call doorways as left and right. Some people call base doors as front and back, but in reverse to most other people, just to confuse them. And it's always interesting to try and like mid-game decipher a team's call-outs for like shooter positions or base doors and stuff like that.
And there's a whole stream that can be done on this. There is the difference in comms. Is there the smart thing is that you don't want your comms. I remember Beefy, giving me a map of all the Ducks comms in 2019 to make sure that he knew I would circulate it around. He gave me permission to, so I went to every person I could think of and went, so I've been secretly given Beefy's comms. Like the Queensland comms, here have it. For the simple fact that it is much better when everyone is almost on the same page, because 3-team game.
Yeah.
If you can't get that deny, you want the other team to be able to do it. So smartly of Beefy, he gave it to me and knew exactly what I would do with this information, and I would share it out.
Yep.
And that was the purpose of it. Because there is that element that you have comms that are far too different. Like, there was too many different versions of China and George going around this year that I got confused.
China, George, airport, sniper.
Yeah.
And I got confused.
Yep.
Because some comms are natural, and then there's some comms that aren't. For those states that use left and right, can I just tell you that scientifically, left and right takes your brain longer to process. I know it's milliseconds, but it takes your brain longer to process. And if you are unfortunate enough to have dyslexics around you, which there are a number in this community, you buggered it already.
Yeah, to that one state that uses left and right, stop it.
Stop it. In fairness, the second team in that state stopped using it because this little girl's brain could not handle it. But yes, left and right, please don't use it. It actually takes your brain longer to transmit it.
Yeah.
Short, sharp comms, people.
yeah.
And that's what I would say. That is my feedback to Adrenaline. Get those comms short, sharp, and precise. Don't tell stories in the game.
Yeah.
Just get the information as quickly to your teammates as you can.
I will back up the point of the reason why you guys call front and back is because, especially if you're used to it, you know it, you'll be listening out for it, you know those sort of comms you'll be coming in. But in my own opinion, I hated it. I hated it because I would hear it and reffing exactly what I explained. I saw someone call front pocket and I saw the person run in and shoot the back pocket and then get shot from front pocket.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I'm talking about. However, it doesn't happen as often as I would hope it would to change people's minds to not use it. But it's one of those things that sometimes happens. But if you're used to it, you know what you're listening for, that sort of thing, and it works for you, keep using it. If you change it up and it's just confusing you through the game, then there's no real reason to change it up. You should stick with the comms that you know.
Hey, look, my team had a mixture of front, back, A and B, so we had to adopt the Sharks' calls, but they at least did us the solid of knowing what it would have been in our world, so that when we stuffed up, it wasn't a major drama.
Yeah, we had the exact same thing. It was like, if we call A, you know we're calling the front door. If we call B, you know we're calling back door.
No.
Yeah.
All right,
So we
moving
had to
on
mix
to our
it,
next team here. We have Albury Outlaws in 13th. Camster, Dark Passion, Molten, Dusty, Griffo, and Whippet.
A team that I will always show respect for, and a team that I felt like should have been higher on the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw a lot of Albury Outlaws, I believe.
So
at least it felt like it.
Outlaws
And we
were
weren't always
predicted
the
on
victors.
Sync's list to be 12th.
On Doug's list, they were predicted to be 9th.
Yep.
With a score of 0.558. A lot of that will have to do with Jesse still has trophies in the recent era. Because these stats are, I think it's over 5 years. Your score is given to you over 5 years, so your performance over 5.
Yep. Well, until a month ago, the only player to have 4 teams' first place trophies in a row, I believe.
Is DP, yes.
Yep.
Scary team, this one, always.
Yeah, I feel like Outlaws, to an extent, suffered the same issues that Behemoth suffered. With Dark Passion and Griffo being back in Queensland again, I feel like, and before they moved up, being, an hour and a half away from Albury, made it difficult for them to train together as a team, which is the same issue we had on Behemoth in Darwin. We were just split up too much and couldn't train together as a team, and it just made things difficult. Because on paper, very solid team.
Yes, absolutely. In the arena, they can be very, very scary too.
Yes, definitely.
100% scary. Their finals day, and you probably want to run through their stats on their finals day, was a bit average for them, for Jesse.
Yes. So they finished round robin in 11th, climbed to 10th in Cascade 1, dropped to 12th in Cascade 2, and they went 1st, 3rd, 3rd, 3rd in System D and dropped to 13th.
I feel like this is a team that started well while people were learning the arena and learning each other. And then as people progressed, got their number because, again, they were throwing out some of the same tactics all the time.
Yep.
At you. So it became there was a bit of a known quantity there was going to be thrown at you. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's there's an advantage at the beginning, especially if you've played it as a team before, that you know each other, or at least you have played against another person. You sort of know their play style, and when you come together and you verse other teams that are new to it, they've got new players, or they're just a new mix of people, you definitely have that advantage on them and being able to sort of wheedle out where they're going wrong and focusing on it. So you can see that from Cascades 1. They jumped that spot up because you can see that they just sort of knew what they needed to do. But unfortunately, they just sort of started dropping a little bit during 2 and System D.
They took out some scalps.
Mm.
They certainly did. On their way, because that's what happens when we talked about it earlier. You don't respect a team.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing with any team that DP's on. If you don't respect him, he's going to exploit that.
Yep. I mean, they beat One Up twice. They beat Apex once out of 2 games. They beat Storm 1 out of 3 games. They beat Dragons all 3 times they saw each other.
We saw Dragons a lot with them. I think a lot of our games had Aubrey and Dragons in it.
Yep. They beat Vikings twice. They had a win against Bendigo Blitz. Yeah, they definitely took a couple scalps. They had a win over Eclipse as well.
Yep.
They did pretty well.
So they had some big wins in there. It was just consistently holding that.
Yep.
That was a problem for them.
Yeah, they definitely showed that when they were firing on all cylinders, they were definitely a team to look out for, but it just seems, looking at the stats alone, that they couldn't do that consistently. And I think that's where we see the results of a lack of training as a team.
And I think that's it for these guys. It's a lack of training. They fall victim, like we all do, to a bit of emotion when things aren't going well as well.
Yep.
That lets them down. But overall, this team, I feel, is lower than they should have been. They should have been higher than they were, and I think that the combination of that, the lack of training and the fact that these guys do have high emotions when things aren't going their way, that they need to work on.
Yep.
Keeping that cool, calm, and collected, because, again, one player is going off, that's cascading through the team, and this team is probably the better example of it, where one player, because there's a lot of personalities on this team that are very calm, cool, and collected, and don't get drawn into that, but they are drawn into that.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not. It's just an effect on the mood and the emotion of the team. So there's a couple of strong personalities there, and the rest are, very calm, cool, collected, and great fun. I love the Molten Boys. They are adorable. And everything else. I love every member on this team, actually. They're a great bunch of people. But they do, live life large and have emotions large. And I feel like that sometimes gets in the way of success. So.
Yeah. On top of that as well, I do know that they did generally have a very good time outside of the arena as well, much like I did playing with most of them on Behemoth. Just like really good bunch of people to hang out with, and I was hanging out at their accommodation one night, and they were just having a good time.
And I think the only time they let themselves down is in the arena. That frustration, just when things aren't going well, just translates through the team. But they're good enough enough to drop it out at the door.
Yep.
So it doesn't translate into the outer arena. So they've just got that one element to work on, which is in arena.
Yeah, and that
Yeah, I
just
think
comes
they've got
down to
that down.
training.
Yeah, I think they've got that down really well, as being able to actually separate their strategy and what they're deciding on doing outside of the game for a game, completely separate from what ends up happening in the game. Is they can still come out of it, go like, look, it didn't work. We got frustrated in the game. We got annoyed at each other. But leaving the game, let's not continue to be frustrated with each other because it's not going to benefit us.
I think they're one of the better teams at doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
To be honest, I think they've got that part of it well home and hosed. Very good example, if you want to know of not bringing what happened in the arena out of the arena, is watching Albury team chat.
Yeah, definitely.
And watch them interact with each other. They don't all sit and go off to merry end corners of the bloody universe and ignore each other and get angry and everything else. They have got that outer game grade fantastically nailed.
Yep, definitely.
Even without, and that's impressive knowing that they don't train together all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got that relationship and that very trust and safe relationship that aim is game, friendship is friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic they're able to get that down packed, because then, yeah, they can actually continue to work on their strategies without all the emotions that come from playing.
Now, this team is one of the few that I don't see keeping together as a majority, because obviously, as we've spoken about, DP and Ellie, who are core to this team, have moved back to Queensland. So what happens here, Folly, for Camstar, Moulton? Well, Moulton's the one getting married.
Yes.
Please tell me I've got it right. Is Moulton the one missing next year?
I'm not sure what their plans are for next year. I haven't spoken to them about it specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if... I would be very surprised if they haven't already had a discussion about it. About potential pickups to replace Dark Passion and Griffo. Or even the possibility of keeping them on, which I don't know that they would do, just based on the fact that their results were definitely affected by not being able to train together.
Yep.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, the four of them from New South Wales try and pick up 2 new players and go for another run next year with a team that they can train together with more consistently.
Yeah. I want a massive shout out here to Camstar, who I think's gone from strength to strength each year I watch him play.
He's an absolute pack monster.
And this year, more so did it stick out to me how much he has developed as a player and a person than any other year. This year was a standout for me. And I don't know if it was the 2-year gap or whatever it was, but standout for me on this team was Camstar.
Well, he hasn't missed a national since he started.
Yes, but I forget he's there. This year, and not for any other reason. He's just been solid and consistent, and this year I felt he upped the ante.
Yep.
Right? This year I felt bigger growth out of him than I had felt in the other times. It's like all of a sudden all that years of experience went click, click, ding! I'm here!
Just an interesting little fact about Outlaws as well is every player on the team bar Whippet has finished in the top 10 in teams.
Yes.
Obviously, Molten, Dusty, and Camster finishing 10th on Sovereign in Albury, yeah. And then spent most of Sunny Coast Nats inside the top 10 as well, before they succumbed to injury.
And there's a lot to be said about Whippet is already making her mark.
Yes, second nationals. She's got a women's trophy now, and a triples trophy.
Yes.
And if she didn't have to play 12 in a row, she probably would have had a juniors trophy too.
100%. But I would also there was that lovely story that came out from Guardian that happened in women's. But I want to shout out to Whippet there as well. There were moments that Whippet, just her interactions with the other women in the event, were just as inspiring as they were for the Church moment that happened. That room of women's in finals, I think the committee made a good decision there in running it as a 5-game series, was absolutely fantastic and positive. And that came from your Chutches and your Whippets and your Gypsies and all the leaders of the women's group all being fantastic to each other in that room and fantastic during the event. And I think that's really important. So big shout outs to Whippet, is she is making a mark on the sport. She is positive and everything else, and she's doing it with great respect and pride. And I think that's really important to acknowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that girl has a big future in laser tag. Can't wait until she's up where, you know, closes the gap there on Chutch.
Yeah, for sure. And for what it's worth as well, she only doesn't have a top 10 teams result on a technicality because we did get 10th at the Rumble. It just doesn't count because it's not a ZLTAC event.
No, but she's definitely making her mark, and she's growing very quickly and very strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I dubbed her my stallion during the weeks.
I haven't seen many people with the level of passion and commitment to laser tag that Whippet has at the moment.
And it shows.
Yeah.
In how quickly she's progressed.
Exactly.
She's definitely training. She's definitely playing. She is definitely a positive influence. She's all those key things that you want in a player. She is going to be... She already is solid. She already is reliable. She already is dependable, and she already has fantastic mechanics and game skill. She's just moments away from a big breakthrough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, calling it now. She's moments away from a big breakthrough, people.
Alrighty, moving on to 12th place, our second last team to talk about for the night. Also from New South Wales, we have the Sabres. I think one of maybe only 2 teams that had more than 6 players on a team this year.
Yeah.
Who was the other team?
Bendigo Blitz had 8.
Oh, yes. I don't know if I call that a technical 8. Most of them weren't playing.
Fair.
They were just COVID spares.
Spider, Zam, Polchrome, Princess, Dart, Messiah, and Wildcard.
I love you too, Whippet. Doug's list had them at had a score of 0.30, 15th place.
Yes.
Sync's list had them at 13th, so we got Outlaws and Sabres flipped.
I think you got that wrong, actually. It had Subrace at 13th.
Sabres was supposed to finish above Orcas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sync's list had Orcas at 14th.
Yep. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Sabres was one of those teams, I think. Yeah, you kick it off.
So Sabres have got a few people on the team that have played together at Nationals for a few years now. Obviously, Spider, Zam, and Princess. Wildcard getting the call up from Leviathan.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider bringing along 3 rookies in Polchrome, Dart, and Messiah. They've been playing together as a team for a couple of years now, but this was the first competition where they actually get their whole team together for a comp. They've played a few comps here and there, but this is the first time they've had everyone together, and things just worked for them.
Yep, you go.
They had a bit of a slower start compared to where they finished. They finished round robin in 16th. Jumped to 13th after Cascade 1, held the spot through Cascade 2, and then swapped places with Outlaws and jumped into 12th on Finals Day. They didn't actually get a third on Finals Day. They went second, first, second.
Which is an impressive track record. They didn't actually take a third.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Finals Day. I feel that this team... I think 7-man was a mistake. Always 7-man is a mistake. You can't get any kind of sense of rhythm.
Yep.
And a little like Hellhounds, where I feel like this team looked to Spider for all the answers. Spider being the hero, Spider being the stronger player, and everything else. There was a lot of pressure here for these guys to do well, because the Spider momentum of laser tag the way it is puts a lot of pressure that this team should have done a lot better. I think they've done exceptionally well. I think Spider would have liked a better result. than he got.
Mhm.
But I also think that there were inconsistencies in this team where, again, the 7-man just didn't help them get around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Piggybacking on what you've said, Semi, I feel like the pressure went on to Spider as well. I think Spider probably could have played a little bit better had the rest of his team not been sitting there going, "You need to do well so we can do well." Puts a lot
I
of
don't
pressure
even
on
think
him
they
to play
did
well.
that. I think it was just the room, the way it works. There is the Spider hype.
Mm.
Because he's been in that mid-range low tier, but very high on the solo ladder. There's big shoes to fill for Spider. I think it's a lesson learning for the laser tag community is that's a much. He's been in that bottom, and I've always wanted to see him in the top end. I want to see what he does when he's got pressure from both sides, because I think that's where his next level is.
Yep.
He needs pressure from. He needs those top end games, and he's just not got it. And that is a product of his own scene and everything else. And I think the ZLTAC itself is you don't do any favors by ego boosting up, because then all these teams subconsciously and not of fully awareness memory are looking to Spider for all the answers instead of seeking them for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's an unfair position to put on Spider.
Yeah. For what it's worth, obviously, Basilisk in Darwin did finish 6th. But they didn't really spend a lot of time through the comp playing those high tier games.
No.
They played basically the whole week through the mid tier, and then just had a really, really big climb on finals day.
Yes.
So I think the next big stepping stone for Sabres is to build up the skill base of the newer, less experienced players on the team, so they're all at a higher level, so they can really push towards and inside that top 10, so they can get that experience playing in the high tier games. Because like you said, it'll be interesting to see what happens for Sabres once they've got that pressure from both sides.
I think my personal thoughts, and the few times I've seen Spider in that, he ultimately end of it will excel. It'll be a hard driver for him because he is used to it being a little bit easier. But it will ultimately accelerate him up. But I think his team needs to really dig deep to meet his level and meet his commitment and meet his training and do all of these things. They really need to dig deep, and he needs to cement himself on a 6-man roster. As much as he wants to be the nice guy and include everybody, 7-man is hurting you. Make the hard cut, Spider. It's hard, and please, whoever gets cut, don't take it personally. But you need to make that cut because you need that consistency in the team. And I know Spider sat a lot of lower end games because he wanted the guys to have that experience. You need to be in there too, Spider. They're not going to live without you. So there's a bit there to be done because I really feel that he's like other teams, they're verging on the edge of greatness. They need to find that magic little formula to push them right over.
Yeah, definitely.
Saying that, I think it's exactly right. Spider wanting them other players to play together so that they can get used to it, especially build up their confidence in their playing. Because of that, he's not actually practicing with them. So they might be new players and they've played with him before, but it's a very different thing, especially for the newer players. There's a very different scene from playing at home. You need to be able to be in there with your team, and they need to accept that you're in there. And even though it's the lower end games, you need to work together as a team and get used to each other playing as a team.
Yeah, guys, I love you all on Sabres, but don't leave Spider to do all the hard lifting.
Yeah,
You're all capable.
When you've got that 7-man, it makes it quite hard to actually fully play as a team, like you said, because there's 2 of you sitting out constantly. Like, you don't actually get to properly play as a team. Like you said, you lose that rhythm. You don't actually get to have okay, cool. Like, if anyone needs to sit out, then we can have we can exchange way easier. Having that 7 people is just too much, like you said. But yeah, having Spider not play the earlier games because he wants his teammates to work together and be get used to that sort of competitive level is letting himself and the team down because they don't get used to his play style in this setting.
Spider is one of the ultimate nice guys. harm or hurt a fly, right? And I think having a 7-man team also hurt him there because he doesn't like being the meaty one to say serious in this game.
Yeah.
He wants everyone to be involved. He wants everything to do with that, and I think that would be my advice to Spider as a person. I hate to say it, mate. You need to be okay with saying not today. You're not the best form for today. You're not the best player for today. And having that, I think the nice part of Spider got in his way here, and that's how he ended up with 7 because he could make a decision. He didn't know what he wanted. He didn't know who he wanted to drop. Sometimes you've got to go with your gut, Spider, and I would say that in the game. Got to go with your gut. You're a very scary player in the arena. If you trusted yourself a bit more, I really feel like, and if you just push through it, it would be much better. But the rest of his team still need to, because he's the ultimate nice guy, Spider. He's so lovely. He's so supportive. He's very positive. He's all of these things. He needs a little bit of toughness. A little bit. I want to see a little bit of grit and a little bit of tough come out of Spider. You know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like his team could benefit from a little bit of less love and a little bit more grit. Because that's what they're lacking is the grit.
I think he's, unlike a lot of people, he's lacking enough will behind him to enact. Because he's definitely got these sorts of, he knows who he didn't necessarily want on the thing. He knows that sort of thing, but he just does have the unwillingness to say it. Because he does,
my
like you
favourite
said,
thing to say is get Spider off a panel and he's easy. You know? And you feel terrible because he's the nicest person in the world, but he needs that grit. I don't know if he looks at.
Yeah.
I have no idea if he looks at anyone, and I feel like he doesn't look at anyone and goes, "If I just do that, they're easy points." You know. And I feel like I want to see this team with some grit, some real, some
See,
a little bit of ego.
It's an interesting thing to say. Get Spider off a panel and he's easy, considering the last 2 nationals he's made round 3 in Lord of the Rings. So
yeah, but that's outside of the arena, darling.
That is true, but that doesn't mean that his timing is bad.
No, not at all. I think if for whatever reason you bounce him off a panel and you've got half a fighting chance, leave him on a panel, you're lost.
Oh yeah, he's very, very good on a panel. That's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you agree with me? I just want to see some more grit, some more grind.
Yeah.
You know, get a bit dirty there, Spider. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just too nice, and I wanna see the dirt. I wanna see the grit. I wanna see the.
Be willing to be
fight.
an asshole, Spider. Do it.
Tell me if you know him better than I do, Volley, but I've always.
No, you're right, 100%.
I want to see it. Get down it. And I think I've tried to encourage it out of him and he doesn't realise it. But I really want to see that grit. I really want to see that determination.
The determination's definitely there because he's got the drive.
But it's too nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the drive, but he's just too nice.
Yeah.
He's almost in that mindset of being the support attacker that just doesn't want to make the call in case it's wrong. He's got that mindset.
All right,
but
enough.
He will make the call.
Enough fawning over Spider. Let's move on.
We can't help.
So our last team to talk about for the night: Bendigo Blitz, Fitzy, Vector, UB Hayton, Extra, 111 plus 444, Falcos, Worthy, and Rep.
Alrighty. So, what did Six Live have them as?
Sync's list had them at 6th.
Doug's list had them at 13th.
Okay,
so with a score of 0.439.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So Doug's list had it much closer than we predicted.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a really strong start to the comp too. They finished round robin in 4th. Cascade won. They still stayed in the top 5. They dropped 1 spot to 5th. Then Cascade 2 happened. They dropped from 5th to 9th, and then they dropped 2 more spots on finals day.
So, this team traditionally, like classic Morrow things that Morrow says, is they do really well in round robin. and then they tend to like take a nosedive in Cascades. So after Cascade 1, because these guys were sitting near us where we were, they were absolutely ecstatic with themselves. I was still up there.
Yeah.
Because it's not their tradition. They normally just basically nosedive, or they have a rough round robin and then climb. They seem to go from one extreme to the other. These guys.
Yep.
Vector, you have, and this is probably what the teams we're getting into now, with have the huge amount of volunteers on them, who do huge hours, volunteers.
Yep.
On them. So you had Lewis you had Mars. Was he Lewis this year or Mars again? I can't remember.
Worthy and Vector.
Worthy. So Worthy we had on the media team, not sleeping, being there forever because it was his kit. His and the site's kit that was being used for the streaming, and Vector was there morning, evening, afternoon because he was running tint, which is not torn.
Yeah.
So we could run on Ozone. And he was doing a lot of the data stuff as well as he helped EC Law and that. You had Bailey, who was a committee member, also running staff behind the scenes, running all the back end stuff. So this is the first team in the mix that has a lot of volunteers doing a lot of hours. That impacted them, I believe, coming towards the end, even though it's classic Bendigo. They just don't care.
Yeah.
To want to put it mildly, they are there for the fun. They are there for the smiles. Not all of them don't care, but there's a large part of them that's that real dopey dog thing of whoop whoop.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the volunteers bit. It was exactly the point that I was going to bring up. Is I know that a lot of these guys were doing very long hours. They're doing all sorts of stuff. I know that Lewis was just running between games back to the media area and then going back into another game next. It was just a cacophony of just them having to do a lot of stuff outside of the games as well that impacted their gameplay.
Also important to note, these guys were still going to work.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Billy
that.
worked during the week.
Nice.
Falcos worked. The reason Rep wasn't there, which I really felt hurt them. She was working.
Yeah.
Benny J was also working. Not that he got his novel game. Call up for his novel game. So these guys were still working as well. Fitzy, I think, was the only one that wasn't working.
Yep.
During the week.
They had some pretty impressive results against teams above them as well.
They're scary when they want to be.
Yeah, they took a win off us. They won every game that they played against Aftershock.
Oh, they definitely had Aftershock's number, and they were very proud of that.
Yep. They went 3 wins out of 4 against Storm, who finished 6th. They had a 50-50 win rate against the Dragons. They beat you guys 2 out of 5 times.
Yep.
They took a win off the Vikings. They had a win against Apex. They had some good results against the teams above them. Unfortunately,
the only team they didn't beat was Spartans.
Yep. Unfortunately, those wins seem to have been earlier in the competition, and their losses against those teams were later.
Yeah.
Which is...
No, that's not
No?
actually... I know some of the wins against us were later.
Yeah, okay. They beat us in Cascade... Oh, no, actually, it might have been Cascade 2.
Yeah. It just feels like the hard games, they got down and dirty, and the easy games maybe left it to chance a little bit too much. But they definitely they took some scalps in Cascade 2, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But classic Bendigo things. Leave everything to fit. This is another team that leaves everything to a handful of players to do. Namely Fitzy. And Vector. They don't train. So this is a result. They don't train. They just don't. If you ask Bailey, because Bailey's so cash, yeah, whatevs. Lewis that would like to train more. She'll be right attitude is always Bailey's attitude. She'll be right, mate. This is a team that if they actually applied themselves, could have been in the top 3.
Yeah.
This is what not training gets you, and a little bit of home side advantage.
I must say, I feel like they definitely had the home side advantage, and somehow they just didn't quite hold on to it as good as they could have. Which is not to say that just because you're playing a home site means that you're going to be a better team, but it doesn't necessarily give you the advantage to know the layout of the base, of like know exactly sort of what to do. Although I feel like part of their thing was also utilizing upstairs, which I think having downstairs only was really beneficial to everyone, and did give that possible slight disadvantage to them because they might be using upstairs in some of their usual plays.
Having upstairs absolutely would have been their thing, because Fitzy
And
would have got
Bailey-
2 bases and then gone upstairs and farmed points.
Having a look at
Bailey should-
Cascades too, they did demolish in one of their games on blue.
And all I'll say tomorrow is that Bailey should have read the fine print when he let us take out
Yeah.
upstairs for PN3.
Is that fine print that no changes can be made after Prehats 3?
That would be the one.
Yep.
Doing them dirty.
We didn't really. It was just I think there was part of Bailey that thought he could still have the option.
Was they, having a look at that game where they did scout on Cascade 2, they got 47,000. You guys, Orcas, got 34,000. Outlaws got 29,000.
Oh, you
Very
let
convincing win.
Yeah.
So Vector was coming out a lot at the start. Now, if you let these guys get on a roll, get out the way. It's the typical Victorian strat, right? Do not, and I think a lot of teams have got wise to this, and which is we'll get to one up in the next session. Don't let Victoria get on a roll. Don't let them steamroll your bases. They're really good at it. Don't give them the advantage to brawl. Just don't do it. And I think that's where the she'll be right attitude, hurts this team and does great wonders for this team. On a roll, unstoppable. But once we've got your number and you're not in the realm of thinking about it, they're going to stop you. And a lot of these teams only made the mistake once or twice of letting Bendigo get on a roll against them before they went, no more.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the teams where if you're able to stop them in their tracks and force them to change up what their strategy has been right near the beginning of a round, you can control them a bit, which you can do with any team, but I think for them it's very detrimental that they are in control very early on and they make sure everyone knows that.
I felt one of the games we lost to them, which was the one you brought up, I felt like Bendigo was everywhere that game.
Yeah.
They were defending, but then I felt like there were 5 of them at our base and everything else. I felt they put me completely off my element, and I felt like they were everywhere in that game. I felt like they were 5 defending and 5 attacking all at the same time. They felt like there were 10 players of them in the arena. And that was just because of the strategy they were playing.
Yeah.
They were definitely their base dropping, and you'll have 5 of them throw themselves at you, and it was bad. And they'd be back in time at their base in time.
Yeah.
The important part was a few of them tend to go off script and go off and go whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
Murray knows what I'm talking about. And then not go back. And I got lazier and lazier as the tournament went on, or, whatever. So you could crack it around, or you could slow them up or distract certain players by shiny little things, like put a little shiny bit out in front of Fitzy and keep him there a little longer. So there were those advantages.
Yeah, I think this is sort of going back to what we talked about with Anomaly, having the chaos element. They had the chaos element forcing other people to think that they were being chaotic and didn't know what was going on, and they forced other teams to feel the chaos.
But the thing with
without
Bendigo,
actually themselves being chaotic.
They were never chaotic, though. That was the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they weren't chaotic. They made other teams feel like they were chaotic.
So, as opposed to the discussion with Anomaly having that one player that was the chaotic element, the entirety of Bendigo Blitz was an organized chaos.
I know.
Which made it feel very chaotic in game, but they knew what they were doing. So it brought a lot of chaos into the games that they played, but it wasn't the same as Anomaly, where they just had that one individual that brought the chaotic energy. It was all 5 of them that were in the game brought it with them.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know. I love those games. I love this team. We played them a lot, and we had a great rivalry going on between us.
but they really emote a lot of the time, you know, especially as a defender, they get me off on the back foot.
Yep.
I have to question my sanity. Just the way they came in, and in some cases they got it done real nice and quick, and I'm like, oh, you know, and it was like it was gone. I missed there was no pleasure in it. It was just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then other times they figure out a little longer. You know,
Oh,
but it
no.
really was that, because these games were great to play. I love these games because I never knew what they were going to throw at me next. But yeah, never played from the same playbook either. I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of strats that they were willing to try out, and they successfully pulled off quite a few of them. And because of that, they knew that they could just throw stuff at people that hadn't played against them with that strat, and it would just completely confuse them.
But a great sportsman, all of this team. I don't think I ever left a game, whether we won, lost, or whatever, without them shaking our hands and telling us it was a great game, no matter even how mad they were.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw them outwardly express any sort of negative attitudes towards anyone. Like they were always coming out of games with a big smiles on their faces, like good game everyone, and they did it every game without fail.
Yep, without fail. Yes, absolutely. And they just congratulate whoever they were playing against, which is, you know, fantastic. I enjoyed this team, but I think Bendigo thinks I could give them all the feedback in the world. It won't make a difference. I'll continue to do Bendigo things.
Just Bendigo things.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our night now. So that's 11th through to 24th.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
We got there.
We did. So
It took us almost 3 hours.
Yeah. So the top 10 review will be in 2 weekends' time. I have to talk with Simi and our other guest and lock in a time. Ooh. One hint. The guest is a rookie from a top 10 team.
Yes.
I
think I know who it is. Radio.
Do you think? I guarantee you don't know, Declan. I guarantee you won't know.
Well, thank you, Simi and ZLTAC, for joining me tonight.
Very well.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone.
The cats you cannot guess. Because you know.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to hang out and get involved in the chat tonight. And keep an eye out on Facebook for a post for a more accurate day and time for the top 10 review.
Sounds good.
Thank you again.
I was going to say, to anyone I pummeled on top of you, please know I love you all.
Yes.
Yeah, looking at you quackening.
Was it just quackening?
Oh, no, but they're coming for you, Simi.
Yeah. Watch out, there'll be ducks everywhere in your apartment, eh?
Come at me.
Everywhere.
If you feel like giving me the same kind of review, I'll set it up and I'll sit here and you can all monitor my face.
Yeah, no. Same from me. If anyone feels like I was being rude to them, suck it up. I believe in you. No, it was fantastic. It's all in good faith.
I was gonna say we can't blow smoke up all your bums. Sorry.
All good. Well, thank you for having me on. It was fantastic.
No, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody, and Simi and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I'll be watching.
I feel like I feel like Volley and his special guests are gonna absolutely smack into my team because I deserve it. Especially me.
Just one, maybe 2 people on your team, sure.
How do you sleep at night with all the things you've said to these teams, Simi? How do you do it?
I want them to get better. That's how I do it.
Alright, we need to stop talking because we're just dragging it on now.
Yes, correct. Alrighty.
Thank you guys, and I will see you later.
Bye.
Sweet as. See ya.